Alright, we should be live now. So today's a day where I wanted to go over some tier lists for the game because I saw it was a commonly searched thing for new players, apparently, according to YouTube, and I saw some people kind of looking at my old tier lists that are like 8 months old recently, and those videos have been starting to get some clicks. So I figure if people are looking at tier lists that are 8 months old, we can make one a little bit newer. So today's gonna be focused on like kind of high level on weapons for tier lists. If you guys are watching the VOD back, and then later on I'm gonna go into artifacts. I think artifact tier list kind of goes over like a lot of the new players' heads, and is something that they will not have to think about for the most part. Like I think the majority of new players by the time they get to the artifact system will either not be playing New World or like it'll just be like less interested in that kind of thing because at that point you have a little bit more creativity. But I wanted to go over that too because there has been a decent amount of updates to artifacts and like kind of where they're at. So yesterday I went through and I added in all the other artifacts that I was missing from my artifact thing. So now there's 45 artifacts. Oh no, 55 artifacts. And we have what? I mean, we got like 12 or 13 weapons, like an okay amount of weapons. Hello, Mr. Streamer, big fan. Yo, the chat works. Vimu, the chat works. I updated my chat thing, so now it's like white, not black, because I realized I use black backgrounds for everything, and you can't read my chat in any of my VODs because it's black. I'm black. First. Vimu got here first, but you're very close. So I'm probably gonna wait like 5 or 10 minutes. I could throw on some like fun things in the background too, like while we're waiting. There's some kind of community stuff that I wanted to like give shout outs to people because there's some like pretty cool content I saw created by people recently. But it seems like the general vibe with New World is a lot of newer content creators that are catering to new players in terms of the early game concept and like how to get through the main story quest, and it's kind of bothering me too. But I think I want to do that in a different day, because like all these content creators that are like newer to New World and they're catering to new players and about like about leveling and all this stuff. They're like, here's the fastest way to get to 65. It's like, dude, please don't do the fastest way to get to 65. Like once you hit 65, the game goes downhill significantly. Like you really want to like smell the roses with this game if you're actually gonna enjoy the experience of it. It's like if you slave immediately, you will not have fun. And there's stuff like that that I want to address too, but I think that's like a different day kind of thing. Today I just want to go through the artifact stuff because that's the most commonly searched thing on YouTube right now. In terms of New World, is the New World raid, which I could talk about because the content's already been leaked, but I'm like hella insecure about it because last time I made a video about leaked content, AGS gave me a copyright strike because they're like, hey, we don't want anyone else to see this leaked content yet. So I don't think I want to make a video about that quite yet. Maybe wait a few days so that there's a few other videos so I don't like get yelled at too much for making a video about it. But for now, we can talk about like where everything sits in terms of like weapons, turns of artifacts. I know I usually do like a weapon tier list in terms of combinations. I think if I do that as like the first tier list, it's going to be overwhelming for new players. It's better just to talk about weapons as a whole and like kind of go into their pairings and like where classes sit as a whole like right now. So we're gonna keep it basic and then go into artifacts too, which is more advanced, and then on a different day I might come into combinations if it's requested. Vimu, did you see the new flail thing that we were talking about in Discord today? Uh, we we discovered something with the flail that's really interesting. Also, AGS is adding in a fourth character slot, which I am super hyped about because that actually means I can play Fresh Start. If they didn't add this, I couldn't play Fresh Start, but now I can play Fresh Start. Wait, Vimo, are you still there? Did my internet die? Nope, I'm not in this Discord. Bruh. You missed all the gossip, though. Like, I actually mean, like, there's a lot of stuff that gets shared in this Discord, and I don't ping unless you click a roll. But It turns out that flail artifact works on your offhand. Let me make this bigger so it's a little easier to see. Uh, So this is the new flail artifacts perk. It has, or no, this is the greatswords perk. We also discovered this is the greatsword. So the new greatswords perk that gives you haste, it works on your offhand, and the same thing with flail. So with flail, you can basically have like 100% uptime on 20% in power on any person that you hit at any time, which is insane. Like that's such a strong offhand ability that actually might be the strongest offhand ability that exists in the game right now. The only conditional is that your health has to be above 90%. And then with Greatsword, it's like whenever you enter in an offensive stance, you gain 6 seconds of 20% move speed, and then you could switch weapons and you'd keep the move speed. So, like, there's ways to just like zoom across the map now and provide insane utility that didn't exist before because of these new artifacts. And honestly, I feel like AGS didn't really think about it, but it makes stuff a lot more interesting in my opinion. Yo, Golden, welcome back. Golden's got the longest streak of the subs by far now. Hey, Crush, how's it going? Crush, I'm gonna go through artifact tier lists and go through normal tier list for weapons today. And if there's other content too, we could talk about that as well. But I only saw bits and pieces from the Discord today. I know OPR is once a week will give you a chance at between 700 and 725 gear score, which is okay, but not a consistent source of endgame gear. And they added in the 4th character slot, and I don't think Kolinsky sent anything else that was super important. And I didn't see anything different in the New World News, so I'm not sure where he got this. I think it's just from some article. Oh, Baggins is doing Throne and Liberty stuff. I mean, he's probably a sponsored streamer is the thing. Like he has a big enough following where he could be a sponsored streamer, so I wouldn't really take this as a base value. That being said, a lot of New World players are looking at Throne and Liberty right now because New World's effectively giving target lock to PvP. So in a lot of people's eyes, that was the one thing New World had going for it. So it's like, why not just look at a game that just embraces target lock and has other functionalities that are better than New World's? Is like what people's opinion is on it, which is a pretty sour opinion, but I get why. Micro Flail VG just became very, very strong in my opinion. Yeah. Oh, is this where that info comes from? Massively overpowered. That's a site. It, I want to see if there's anything here that is like interesting to talk about, but so far it's like meh. Besides that one other thing, the CK zone's kind of weird. If you guys have seen the map of the CK zone, it just like spans from east to west, and it's like super super easy to camp areas. Now that we have swimming, other plans for aquatic content, underwater treasures, or perhaps sailing, and they're like, nope, we just made it so you could swim on the water. uh, Anything else here? Yeah, the with the release of a tournament will be increasing the maximum care slots to 4. This one's like really, really big. If they actually increase this to 4, I'm very happy, and I am shocked that they haven't communicated that like more clearly, because like a lot of people are like, oh, can I even play on Fresh? I have 3 character slots, and I don't want to delete a character. I don't want to move a character. I need another character to play on Fresh Start. And another reason why you want to play on Fresh Start is because the end game content is heavily gate kept in terms of time. Like you can only access the end game rewards per segment of content once per week, so it's like heavily time gated. So you have time to like do stuff on multiple characters to kind of progress that way, and then Fresh Start will effectively have more content because you have to go from 0 to max. Throne and Liberty is also free to play. That is true, and that will make it like a lot more popular in terms of clicks, which from a content creator standpoint makes it like a lot more accessible. generally free to play stuff that has like somewhat of a pay to win element is like a more successful platform nowadays than it used to be, as much as I don't like it. But Micro, they just described it as a brief lapse in content. Yeah, it's definitely not that, but I can see him try to spin it that way. Oh, do I have my water bottle up here? Actually, let me grab a thing of water real quick, because we're going to be going for a few hours today. Hey, we back. Water acquired. It's better to do that now than it is to do it in an hour. Rise of Angry Earth was about 1/4 to 1/3 as much content as it needed to be. Yeah, I mean, the main thing from Rise of Angry Earth is the artifacts, right? Everything looked positive until I saw Aimblock and PvP shooting themselves in the foot as usual with AGS. Is it not possible to make target lock servers and non-target lock servers? I think that is possible. I think the problem that AGS has, and I think I said this the other day, and the people that didn't watch the whole video had very strong opinions against what I said, but the people that watched the whole video I don't think had as strong of opinions, is I don't think they made aim assist like a thing at all with New World. And if you remove target lock, you kind of want to have aim assist for controllers. So I think AGS is like kind of forced to face the music, and they're like, we don't have aim assist. We have 15 days, and we're betting we're betting heavily on the console player base anyway. So just fuck it. We're gonna full send the target lock thing. Like I don't think they had a plan B, even though they were warned about this like 5 or 6 months ago by people in their internal build that did the testing and provided feedback. I do not think they have a plan B. So a lot of this tier list that we're going to be going over is going to be based around target lock existing, which sucks. Like, to put in perspective why I'm saying this sucks, is there's some skills, like if you look at, what do you call it? If you look at Hatchet, for example, like not trying to give a spoiler to everything we're going to be talking about today, if you look at Feral Rush, if you hit someone from behind with Feral Rush, you inflict a root, right? But if you can't hit someone from behind because they're target locked onto you and their character model is going to keep following you even if you dodge behind them, then you're never going to be able to land this root, which effectively makes Hatchet a lot worse, and this also makes a lot of melee weapons a lot worse because you're going to constantly be able to be facing in front of somebody. On the counter side, like we all know that like anything that had an ammo component effectively got nerfed with the base damage change, where they removed ammo completely but added 20% base damage to every weapon. That effectively makes it so all base damage effects are a little bit less good, because that bucket already is starting off at 120% instead of at 100%, so that each individual increase will have less of an effect. That change also affects range. What this basically means is I think fire staff ends up being better because of all these stuff, but I wanted to get into that when we kind of go through this. They could have just left it as desync. It basically was aim assist once you learn the desync level. Maybe. Wait, there's target lock in PvP and not just aim assist? Fuck my life. No, it is hard target lock. Does anyone have the clip on the top of their head where Trick won a duel with a blindfold over his head, like over his eyes? Like he was literally blindfolded and was able to win a duel versus someone because of some of the stupid new mechanics and because of target lock. Like that's the main reason why all the PvPers are like, I am not playing this game if there's target lock. I actually know some PvPers that are like hardcore New World players that have played since the game first came out, and they're like, I am gonna play until October 15th, and then like I am deleting the game and I'm not playing it ever again because of the target lock. Like some people are like that, like passionate about the end issue, and it seemed like it remains to be seen if they're actually gonna go follow through with that. But uh, it definitely is not looking great. Also, I think it's funny for this like weapons tier list. I literally just grabbed a 2022 weapons tier list and I just added flail because that's the only weapon they've added in the last 2 years. I thought that was funny. I don't know if anyone else would find that funny, but to me, this is like kind of hilarious. Here's the clip. Does it have audio? Yeah.
Am I targeting? Oh, yeah. I think I got hit by that. Let me do this.
Blindfolded PvP. Big.
Okay. How we doing? We doing good? We win.
He's like, I won. So like because of that, a lot of people have made the claim that like New World's no longer a game that has skill requirements at a certain point. Like it's a game about like what gear you have, what build you play, but like at the end of the day, skill has more or less been removed. If they keep target lock like that, I'll try Throne and Liberty and in live New World. Yeah, I mean that's what a decent amount of people are doing, and that's like we're talking about Baggins earlier in the Discord, because he's like not the champion of New World, but like I'd say like a top 2 content creator within New World. Honestly, Baggins is probably the most well-known content creator that still plays New World, and he's dipping. Like he's realizing, hey, I'm gonna play other games too because I don't see the long term here. Like I would not be surprised. The guy that created New World database, he's already created a database for Throne Liberty too. Like a lot of people are trying to like kind of go sideways on this. Hatchet do feel like it'd be running wild. Feels really good to use right now. Yeah, they made Hatchet a lot better recently. I think Hatchet's really good in solo content, but kind of falls off in group content. Him, Jay, and Trick. Yeah, I think Jay's bigger than Trick. Trick's problem is that he isolated himself from the community. Baggins, I don't know how Baggins is not isolated from the community, because Baggins is like, he's mostly known for PvE, and like he has enough PvP stuff where people actually watch him from PvP, but he's like, he is not a good PvP player like whatsoever. Jay is more of just a news guy, which is fine. That's basically what I am at this point. And Trick is just a PvP guy, and then there's Duke Sloth, who's just a YouTube news guy. Like, there's a decent amount of, like, news guys when it comes to New World. My niche is more of the, hey, I can show you the news, I can data mine stuff, and then I'm also really good at PvP. That being said, I play the classes that are not flashy in PvP. I play the if you know what you're doing, these are high impact classes, so... Koro, I have not played New World in the last 2 months, but I've played a lot of Deadlock. But I still am making content for New World because people want content. Like, I've helped people that are, like, playing the game. Like, there's new players that are, like, trying to get into the war scene, and I try to help them as much as I can, and I try not to war so they could have my slot, but, like, I can't do much more besides that. Seems like a waste of your time then. Don't you own them? I mean, it's kind of is, but like at the same time, the community is still really cool. The interesting thing with is their willingness to lose the whole PC player base, but that potential base was 900k players at one point. Yeah, that's the most interesting part about New World. Miko, are you gonna try Throne and Liberty? I think so. Juan showed me some content of Throne Throne and Liberty, and like it looked okay, but to me it wasn't like really catching. Let's see. He said this guy is one of the best like tank players in the game. He linked me like 3 different videos of builds that he thinks I would like. Also, why is this like... Okay, there we go. But like, this is Throne and Liberty. Like, I'm not gonna play the audio because it's just like loud stuff. But like, to me, this is just like it's not sexy looking to me. It's like I like actually am getting cancer watching this. It's just there's so much going on the screen. And that's a problem I have with a lot of like MMO related stuff. Like, there's just too much going on. Like, it's too Korean to me. Like, I know it's a Korean MMO, but like, oh my god, it's like it's really Korean. It's a bit much. New World's only saving grace is the combat. Now it's dead with aim lock. Yeah. Like, I don't even know what I'm like watching for half this, to be honest. It's a very Korean MMO. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, and I don't like Korean MMOs. Like, I would rather play a different genre than play like a strictly Korean MMO. Like, some people like it, but for me, it's just not really it. Is there anything else that's like interesting from this? Not really. Like, I don't know. Like, Throne of Liberty looks fine, but like, if I were to pick a, well, I'd rather get into Ashes, but Ashes won't be out for another year and a half, and I'm not paying $120 to test a beta. Like, holy crap, why is that a thing? Well, I don't enjoy the aim lock. How do you make it fair for console controller players so that they aren't completely left behind versus mouse and keyboard? That's pretty simple. It's a thing called aim assist. There are a lot of issues with aim assist, but as a whole, aim assist is generally better. So like aim assist, so let me open up a notes page here, because this is the best way I've found to get a blank thing now. So like, say I'm this triangle right here, and I am trying to hit this square with a shot. And aim assist, what it does is, say I'm like aiming here, aim assist will make it so that my aim like moves towards the target, but isn't directly on the target, if that makes sense. So it'll give me like this margin of error that you see like on the right. Like, the aim assist does this. What New World's doing is like, what I'll draw. How do I want to draw this? I'll probably just pick a different color, like black or something like that. Is this too dark? No, you could see the black. So like, what New World's doing is they're just like, okay, you can look directly at this person, or that's not a great line, but you can look directly at this person even though you're aiming over here, like no matter what. Like, you could be aiming the other direction, lock onto this person, and New World will just adjust it. And what I'm saying is like, this option that's like in the middle is okay, but like the extreme is not okay whatsoever. Like, this is a completely level playing field when you add target lock, but also eliminates any mechanism of mechanical skill added to the game, and that's what people don't like. Aim lock turns combat essentially into tab target. Yawn. Yeah, that's why people don't like it. It's like, effectively, how I aim and my movement doesn't matter, because if I try to dodge an attack but the guy has target lock, it's not going to make the guy miss because he has target lock, right? So now my entire process of dodge is not just for movement, but it's literally just to avoid the incoming attack. So it makes the game like a lot simpler and less exciting from a end game. Hello, triangle. It is a triangle. Should be very soft aim assist. Yeah, I mean, the other problem that aim assist runs into, which I don't think we really need to go into it in depth, is things like the Zim, which is a device that you plug into like an Xbox or a PlayStation that gives keyboard inputs, and then that allows you to effectively have a similar mechanism to target lock with using aim assist. And that's not fair either, and there's games that have figured out ways to detect Zims and then basically ban players that are using them. But I think that whole situation is a better situation than the situation you get to if you just introduce the aimbot to everybody. I'm a Square fan myself. All right, Lagoon. 100% the action combat without aim lock is why I've liked New World, so it sucks to see it happen. Yep. In my opinion, New World does not even need aim assist. Headshots are relevant. Yeah, that's the other thing to New World that even the devs don't realize is headshots don't benefit you in this game at all. Like, in a lot of games, if you hit a headshot, you get a headshot multiplier and you do more damage. In New World, the majority of weapons don't actually have a headshot multiplier introduced to them, so any magic weapon doesn't have a headshot multiplier. It's just based off of randomly critting, which you can't control. Headshots with certain weapons are guaranteed as crits, and then back shots effectively are guaranteed as crits, or backstabs, or whatever you want to call it. So if you hit some from behind, with like a melee weapon is a guaranteed crit. So it's often, and those crits don't effectively do more damage because people have so much crit damage reduction that it doesn't really matter at the end game level of PvP. But we'll kind of get into that here. I think we have enough people to do this. Pro, do not say backshots. The problem is I played too much Albion and they were very crass in there, to say the least. I have found out that Europeans in general are more racist and somehow than Americans, which I did not think was possible. And then they also like, the profanity is like through the roof, and now it's invaded my vocabulary and it's really bad. Also Albion's a great game, but do not recommend it if you have kids. It got really bad. Americans aren't that racist on average. People just pretend they are. I thought it was so funny the thing I said to Finch today. Like I called Finch a French, and he's like, "Fuck no, I'm not a French. Fuck the French." It's like, he's like, I knew he was European this whole time. It's like stuff like that. Does matter for musket, but I don't know anyone who specs for full headshot build. Yeah, I mean, you can spec for headshot builds, but it's just like, it's not as consistent and it does less damage than other alternative builds. I'm gonna drink a little water here and then we can kind of get started on the base weapon tier list. This tier list is gonna be focused towards probably like early to mid game. Like, how do we want to do the first one? Should the first one be off of leveling experience? Like, if I do like a first tier list, like I probably could do a few and then edit them into separate videos and like talk about different points. But I feel like I'd be overcooking. No, let's just make it towards PvP in general, like where weapons are standing right now, and like how people can grind to them. Because I think the leveling experience, you can kind of go with any weapon you want to right now. I was gonna ask what type of PvP this is based off. Let's say this is based off like or that's a bad color to pick for this. Like maybe like 1v1 to 10 like scale. So like smaller scale PvP scaling from like individual things like will likely exist at the PvP island to like basically OPR level. Like let's just start from that. Maybe 1, 2, 3 perk, 1 leveling early 65 and so on. Yeah, I mean we're gonna have to break it up into different ones. But let's start off with like small scale. Sorry, I'm checking the other chat to make sure that I'm not missing anything too. Because the YouTube chat is different than the Twitch chat, so that's kind of freaking out. Applies to most people, yeah. Like, yeah, OPR 3v3, the island is probably what 98% of people are going to play. Yeah, let's make it towards that. So this is like, in general, towards OPR 3v3 or the island. The weird part about this is the way that heals work is like very, very different between these game modes. So like in OPR, heals are the main source of carrying, and 3v3 heals are the main source of carrying. On the island, heals are either going to be insanely OP or they're going to be utterly worthless, and I don't know which right now. Because heals will either make it so that you're invincible, and then you can trade out in any situation and just win any 1v1, which I think is more likely, or you will just get, like, domed and, like, deleted. With that being said, let's start left to right here. Start with Blunderbuss. I'll be curious what you guys think about Blunderbuss right now. OPR 3v3 Island with Blunderbuss. The problem with Blunderbuss is... let's go over strengths and weaknesses. So if we look at Blunderbuss... so if I go to here... The Blunderbuss has a few things that are very, very good for OPR 3v3 and for open world. And that basically comes down to net shot. Azov Shrapnel Blast is not bad. With target lock, you literally can't miss, and headshots don't matter with this weapon. All of those go in favor of Blunderbuss. But in terms of like the downside, you're getting nerfed from being in PvP with the Blunderbuss, there's like a PvP based nerf that went out. You're also getting nerfed if you were using ammo before. If you weren't using ammo before with your Blunderbuss, I guess you're getting buffed, but most people were using ammo, so that's effectively a nerf. So I feel like Blunderbuss compared to the live patch is like in a little bit of a better spot because of the target lock, but other than that, everything else is like not really working towards Blunderbuss at the moment. So like I'd probably start it off like kind of lower here, like low B, yeah, low B, high C. Like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. I think I'm gonna start off as low B because I feel like target lock with the Blunderbuss is like the most busted weapon because Blunderbuss is hit scan, and the problem that you had with it was that you'd miss like a few pellets, and then that would just completely negate most of the damage you had with this weapon. But with target lock, I think that makes Blunderbuss a decent amount better. Also with the ability, like Blunderbuss is actually a pretty good PvE weapon as well, and I think of things like OPR, I think of the island, like there is going to be a PvE element. If you want to escape, Blunderbuss is like not bad in terms of an escape weapon. So like I feel like it's just like a decent weapon overall, but it's like nothing super special. Like it's definitely, I think it's definitely like a mid B kind of weapon. I don't think it's a low B because of mostly the target lock. Bow is really interesting because it really depends on the player. For an average player, I would say bow is like a C tier weapon, with the exception of raids. And raids, for whatever reason, bow turns out to be really good. But in terms of PvP, usually like bow is either like insane if you're really good with it, or it's like basically not playable. Like if we looked at the clip we saw from Trick earlier, he beat the guy that he beat with his eyes closed was a bow player, and bow's gonna be suffering from a few mechanics this next patch. The first one is if you get staggered while you are below full stam, you're not gonna be able to dodge until you're back to full stam, which makes it so that like bow effectively needs to run a defensive offland. But the bow's main weapon, the bolt caster, is a very good weapon. It did effectively get nerfed a decent bit though with the base damage change. So I feel like musket will always outperform in always possible. I think it will for the general players. Musket's usually better than bows. Wasn't that confirmed a bug? It's a bug, but with AGS, even if something's a bug, it likely will not get fixed for 6 to 9 months, which effectively makes it a feature, so you have to treat it like a feature until it's fixed. I wish I could be more positive about that, but that is like the truth is I don't know if you guys saw the patch from like a week ago. AGS released a patch notes to Twitter. They said that they fixed an issue that happened literally over a year ago. So it's like you can't trust AGS to fix most of these features quickly. So for that reason, I'm probably going to put bow below Blunderbuss, which is really weird. But the entire basis of that is most people that play bow don't go for the animation cancels, and bow is a projectile based weapon, so target lock won't effectively enable bow past like 15 meters. And because of the stam issue that you run into with bow, where if you get staggered from a melee weapon, you're not really going to be easily able to escape because you won't have the ability to dodge and create distance, and that effectively puts bow in a worse spot than it used to be. But bow is still like inherently a good weapon if you could play around its strengths. It's just like a weapon I wouldn't generally recommend to new players. Light range is going to be unplayable. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think you can play light range this next patch like super well. Like I think with musket you can to a degree because it's far enough away and you have a high enough velocity that the target lock will effectively. Why do we even call it target lock? We just call it aimbot because that is what it basically is. Like the aimbot built in the new world will just like allow you to do things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. It's going to be a weaker version of musket rapier in the new patch. Yeah, that's where I feel like bow is. Like I feel like musket is just a better bow because you're going to be able to hit every shot effectively with the target lock system. Healers will get ganked on the island. Yeah, I think healers will get ganked. So I'm gonna put bow below Blunderbuss, which is crazy because Blunderbuss, I think for this last patch, I would consider to be the second worst weapon in the game behind Flail. The only thing I think that enables Blunderbuss basically is target lock, and I think for an average player, target lock is really nice. You haven't even played it? No, but I could tell you, I can give you a more likely opinion on the next meta than 95% of people that will make a tier list. Like, very confidently for this game. And this is focused towards small scale, so OPR, 3v3 in the island. Oh, I'm talking about to the guy that said the island sucks. Oh, oops. I got trigger happy. My bad. Woo got caught in the crossfire. So Ice Gauntlet. To be honest, Ice Gauntlet's just a worse Rapier in small scale. Like, Ice Gauntlet's good in OPR. It's okay in 3v3. The best part about Ice Gauntlet for smaller scale is that Ice Pylon's a targetable ally, so if people like target lock on you, they're not going to be hitting the Ice Pylon, so they have to switch between the target lock on you and the Ice Pylon, or they're just going to get chunked. I don't think Ice Pylon builds really are that strong, though. The other way that we can look at Ice Gauntlet is, like, if you look at Ice Gauntlet from a DPS perspective, it's actually relatively strong next patch, but it's only strong with Void Gauntlet. And the reason why is Void Gauntlet with Scream has a stagger effect. So if your opponent actually, like, yellow bars, and, like, they go into the spot where they used to dodge for something, you hit them with Scream, they're not actually going to be able to dodge at all. So then you can go to Ice Gauntlet, and as long as they're in a storm or an ice shower, that will apply Ultimate Chill, and Ice Spike will hit relatively hard. I don't think an average player will be able to do that, though. God bless, IGVG is back. IGVG is actually back for higher skill players, but for, like, newer players, IGVG is a combo-oriented class, which inherently makes it very difficult to play. That being said, the other way that you could build IG is with Ice Pylon. It's also just a relatively good offhand. So, like, I feel like IG is still, like, a fine weapon to have. Mullen Wars is going to be insane again. Yeah, I mean, I think IG is going to be good no matter what. Like, IG has enough tools present to where I think it will get value. Like, Wind Chill is actually in a weirdly okay spot right now. It's going to be good, too, because Grit just effectively got removed. Ice Spike is in a decent spot because of bugs. That's the only reason why it's decent. And I think Ice Pylon's a good enabler for cheese builds. Everything else is just utility from Ice Gauntlet, and that's also a good way to build. So, like, Ice Gauntlet's fine, but I don't think it's, like, game-breaking. Just joined, why is Bow so low? Bow is low because of the stagger effect and because of target lock, and I think both of those work against Bow for an average player. Because Bow's shots will tend to miss because it's one of the slower projectiles in the game. But that being said, like, if you were good with Bow, Bow is one of the best weapons to play in the game. I'm just saying for an average player, I would not recommend Bow. Isn't the stagger thing a bug? Yeah, the stagger thing is a bug, but I can't guarantee that bug will be fixed because AGS typically fixes bugs in 3 to 6 months, like at the fast end. And at the slow end, it can be like up to a year. It wasn't in the press footage that came out recently. The press footage that came out recently was... No, that was on a different build. How do we know it's not in the press footage that came out recently? Do you have a clip of that? Or like the video for it? Because I would be curious if we can confirm that it's actually been fixed. Because I'm going off of this right now as if that hasn't been fixed, because I just feel like it's less likely for it to be fixed. Oh, the raid into PvP Island from the guy that did an interview. I mean, that's just hard to evaluate, though, because I didn't see a lot of stagger effects. I know what you're talking about, but I didn't see stagger effects in that case. Like, I didn't see SNS being used. I didn't see Warhammer being used in that footage. The boss didn't, like, the people that were playing against the boss weren't the tanks. They weren't, like, actively dodging. Like, none of the players that were playing against that boss actively knew what the dodge key was. They said that range will have staggers, but on a 2-second cooldown. Staggers are still OP, but with grip being removed from the passive. I mean, that's true, but the staggers we're talking about are like versus range, because the initial stuff that we saw, like versus Trick, which I can find that thing again probably from Crush. It's somewhere in the chat. Yeah. No, I don't know where Crush is. No, it's this one. Yeah. Like, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the stagger versus Bow, and this is why I have a hard time rating Bow high. So, like, Trick is literally blind here. The thing you'll notice in a second is while Trick is blind, he hits a stagger on this Bow in a few seconds. So, like, right here, he hits a stagger. This bow can't dodge. So this bow's just eating damage and is just dying and can't get away. And like that's the part that I think makes bow really, really bad next patch. Along with bow, you basically have to play in light. And bow did receive some nerfs to like evade shot and stuff like that, which would help create distance. Yeah, I meant in general, I'm not really talking about bow. Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I still want to keep bow down here until otherwise proven. It also comes from the average OPR player that plays bow actively does nothing versus the average OPR player that plays Firestaff is actually really helpful. It's just that simple because Firestaff's burn effects are like stupid strong still and they haven't toned them down very much. And Firestaff's artifact just got hella buffed. So like Firestaff I would consider to be S tier for an average player, and bow I would consider to not be a weapon that you generally want to go to. Micro, even though both are just as clueless and are just padding clumps. Yeah, exactly. Like Firestaff inherently gets more value. The other thing too, like I think we've talked about a few of the Firestaff buffs, like on in general. Like Meteor Shower is really good, but Meteor Shower on the open beta with the passive disease applies more to large scale. This is more so talking about small scale. And small scale with Firestaff, it's all about your dots. I mean, you have a ton of dots. And the other thing that really helps in small scale is the new artifact that just got updated. Where is it? Inferno. So Inferno got a gem slot along with another perk, along with Inner Power being 15% damage if you hit a target within 15 meters. This effectively just makes Firestaff S tier alone. Like, this artifact is insanely strong with how most of these fights will play out in smaller scale. This artifact is insane now, but Great Axe doesn't get a gem, but GA doesn't get a gem slot. What is GA just Great Axe? I mean, Inferno is like decent now, but I think it's going to be a lot better then. Do dots still not scale with strength? That's the problem, is I don't think they do scale with strength, so you have to use this as an int-based weapon. You also can't split between strength and int, which effectively makes the pairing that a lot of people think about with this is like, oh, I can go Inferno with Blunderbuss. Like, it works, but it's not super great. Beaker, I checked the link. It's good. Okay. But yeah, he doesn't gray bar there. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, we can look at this again. When you're fighting an alligator, alligators have a stagger that would make you gray bar. So, right in a second, he uses dodge and then he gets hit, right? But this bar is still yellow. He's still able to dodge. So, that does show that they did fix this bug. So, we can treat bow a little bit differently then. We could treat bow and Blunderbuss as if this bug has been fixed. Does that really change where I put them? I still think bow is like not a weapon that you want new players to be using though. Goofy ass jump. Yeah, the jump is kind of weird. What's the best perk for Inferno? I haven't really thought about it yet, but on the gem side, you can kind of throw anything that makes sense on there. Probably not an opal. Mal would be fine in most cases. You could do something like if a target's above a certain threshold of health, like that's not bad from a solo like 1v1 standpoint. In terms of like the perk, like it's probably just like attunement or something silly like that. Let's see, what other perks do you have? Oh, you could do accelerating flamethrower. That one's always pretty good. I would either do like accelerating flamethrower or put like attunement on here, which you can't RNG roll, but you can put attunement on here. Like something like that would be good in like a small scale environment. So strong because you could sometimes sneak in one versus people who aren't spec'd for it. Yeah, that's where bow is strong, but like OPR, like if I'm thinking about like the average bow spectrum, like say, like this is again coming back to bow stuff. I feel like we're spending too much time on bow. So there's like 10 bow players. I would say on average, one of these bow players is actually getting value and 9 are not. Like I literally think it's that stark between like who understands the mechanics with bow, and by mechanics I mean effectively exploits, because you get animation cancel a lot of the attacks and just get higher DPS. So I would say that bow is not good for the majority of players, but bow is really good for the players that know what they're doing. So like the top tier bows are more effective than the top tier fire staffs, but like an average bow I would still say is worse than an average fire staff. Mika, I don't think it's even about exploits, it's just positioning and targets. Most are just stat padding. Yeah, that's kind of true. Musket does have a charged heavy shot. They have to hold the aim for like 4 seconds though. Agreed, bow mid buff bow. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's bad for an average player. But I'll just leave it at that. Just say bow is the high skill gap weapon. It is. Like bow is the highest skill gap weapon in the game. Like that is a factual statement. Great Axe next patch is actually just getting slaughtered. That being said, in small scale, Great Axe is still pretty good because of Bloodlust Tree, but Crush, you were saying the Bloodlust Tree kind of got fucked, right? Like it doesn't work as clean as it used to because they changed how the tree works. But I still think it's going to be good in small scale because of Bloodlust Tree. Like Crippling Reap is just insane in small scale. Like you can't get around that. Yeah, Crippling Reap and Charge is good enough. That's what I'm thinking. Like I think Great Axe is solid. Like for small scale, Great Axe is like, I'm going to put the stronger weapon on the left. Like I think Great Axe is better than IG. I don't think it's quite in the same tier as Fire Staff, but it's still really, really good. Great Axe gets lunge back though. Yeah, that's the big downside. Is like Great Axes with like auto attacks are going to be sus, but like I feel like you can't not rate Great Axe high when it has Charge and Reap. Like the Reap staggering people and applying a slow just makes it so you close distance all the time. And you can effectively do anything you want when you're in close distance, and then Charge is another good gap closer, or you can leave with it. And that like alone enables Great Axe, and your last perk literally doesn't really matter. You can go anything. I always played with Great Axe with Maelstrom, which is why my tree got messed up. Okay, gotcha. Like, I think Great Axe is still going to be strong next patch in small scale. I think in larger scale, Great Axe is not going to be as strong, but it will still probably be used as, like, sort of a utility, like, just to use your ability offhand, but it won't be nearly as good as it is right now. Great Axe light attacks have insane reach, plus Reap, plus Charge is insane chase with Bloodlust. Yeah, that's where I think why it's so good. Execute plus Reap, the classic combo, forbidden combo. Let me check the YouTube side, too, if there's other stuff there. Bow had the Mo usage in the beta. Yeah, I'm guessing Bow will be used a lot. I'm just guessing that Bow will not be good for the majority of players. Like most of them will still hit someone that's being healed and they won't switch targets, and that leads to a lot of issues. Greatsword's really interesting for new players because Greatsword's all about stance dancing, and if you're in onslaught stance when you don't want to be an onslaught stance, you just die. Like, this is a multiplicative 15% damage incoming increase, which literally means you can just get one shot by a lot of weapons. But if you're able to use it right, it's insane. Which means that for the majority of new players, Greatsword's probably a no-go because it's very, very easy to mess it up. That being said, like, Relentless Rush is really good, Skyward Splash is really good, and the PvP Greatsword artifact is one of the best guard artifacts in the game. What is it called? Serenity. Serenity is one of the best artifacts in the game because your heavy attacks just nuke people when you get this. That being said, it's going to be hard to hit crits on people now because of the target lock, because you won't actually be able to hit people from behind because they will effectively not get the crit multiplier. Because people will just always be able to face you with the target lock. So I think that effectively makes Serenity a little bit worse too from a high skill perspective. There's also a new Greatsword artifact, Grace. This offensive speed does work on offhands, which helps people gap close, which I do think makes Greatsword a little bit better because you can just use this as a gap closer, kind of a utility offhand if you wanted to, and not even worry about the damage, but it has really good utility. Like, I think Greatsword is like about in the blunderbuss tier, but it's a little bit better than blunderbuss for an average player. Main hand SNS plus Grace versus bows. Yeah, like it's really good with that. Like I don't think Greatsword's like insane. Like it is insane for like really good players, and it's like actually insane for a lot of like mid players. Like if you're decent at the game, Greatsword's usually better than some of the other options. But if you're like not very proficient at the game, or you're newer to the game and you don't know how to like when to do the stance dancing, you can just get deleted with Greatsword. It's like one of the only ways to actually get one shot in the game now is to use Greatsword. So it's like something like I'm like hesitant to recommend to new players, but it's a really, really good option if you're good at the game. If you're actually good at the game, Grace can be better than Serenity, especially if you're fighting against good players. Yeah, because of the speed mechanic. That artifact is so good for the island, though. Greatsword, PvE plus movement. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like if this were just for the island, I'd probably put it higher. But like when I'm talking about OPR and 3v3s too, I feel like people are gonna mess it up somehow. I mean, could I put Greatsword in low A? I feel like I can't put Greatsword in low A. Like I think I could put Greatsword in high B, but I don't think I could put Greatsword in low A. Just because oppression beats damage when fighting good players. Yeah. Yeah. Like I think there's generally better options in Greatsword for like the island, but it's still decent. Warhammer in small scale. Does Warhammer, it does work in small scale and light. It actually was like really good in small scale and light if you know what you're doing, but it's a high skill weapon. So it kind of is like bow-ish. Like I'd probably put it next to bow. Grace is so interesting now. Yeah, the fact that Grace works on your offhand makes it really, really interesting. Yeah, Warhammer's a combo-oriented build, so it's kind of like the blunderbuss, but it's a little bit harder to get value with. I feel like every weapon can be good if you're good. Yeah, every weapon can be good if you're good. This is like more of like a, if I were to have a player that's never played the game and they played one of these weapons, how effective would they be? Kind of like mentality is like how I'm looking at it for the most part. Like I'm looking at like the 90% of players, if they were to play this weapon, how good would they be? Versus like top 10%, like this list would be very different. I agree, Warhammer, any new player will not hit anyone. Yeah, it's also a weapon that like highly depends on latency. Like if you have ping that is over 80 ms, you can't get value with Warhammer in solo play. If you have ping that is under that, you are literally a god, and you can combo people, you can one tap people. It's like it's insane what people do with the Warhammer. Do new players know what a half heavy is? No, they don't know what a half heavy is. They know what a full heavy is, if they even know what a full heavy is, and they likely know what a light attack is, which makes it so that Warhammer isn't as good. Half heavying with Warhammer, which is like the between a light attack and a heavy attack, is very, very strong, and it has really good tracking, so you're able to like catch up to players easily with it. But I don't think an average player would not be able to do that. They did nerf the Warhammer tracking though. Yeah, they did. In Wars, Hammer's very, very good. In small scale, I don't think Hammer is as good. See, is there any other thoughts on this? Way too low for that artifact. The speed on Greatsword is A tier. I also don't want to like flood every tier though. Like I think Great Axe is just generally a better Greatsword for an average player because they don't have to juggle the stances, and Great Axe has also really, really good chase. Like if you juggle the stances well, Greatsword can be very, very effective though. Alacritus punishment will be even more meaningful. Yes, which is another reason why Fire Staff is really good. I forgot they could actually put Alacritus punishment on that artifact Fire Staff now, because they opened up a gem slot, so you can put Alacritus punishment on there along with the damage perks it already has. Like Fire Staff is actually just so good next patch. For a new player, Hatchet's crazy. Yeah, Hatchet is really, really good for small scale. Like this Hatchet for small scale is easily A tier. Definitely could be up with S. Is Hatchet better than Fire Staff in small scale? The only thing I think that holds Hatchet back is the tracking mechanic that was introduced, like the target lock / aimbot. The problem with Hatchet is that if you target lock to someone and the other person target locks to you, there's literally no opportunity to ever flank them, which is like one of the purposes of Hatchet is to get behind people and just to kind of get the feral rush in and do high burst damage. Hatchet's not as good as Fire Staff, unfortunately. Yeah, it's definitely not an S. Hatchet is not an S tier weapon. I think it belongs in A. The question is it better? I think Hatchet's better than Ice Gauntlet in general for small scale situations. Is it better than Great Axe? I don't think Hatchet's better than Great Axe, but it's close. I don't think any weapon comes anywhere close to Fire Staff. I'd argue SNS comes close to Fire Staff, but that's the only weapon. SNS is the only weapon that can even get close. Yeah. Okay, this one I actually might need help with. What do you guys think life staff rates if I were to rank it like between OPR, 3v3, and the island? Because I feel like life staff is likely to get comboed down, but you can kind of trade with people. S? You think it's S? I think it definitely is S for an average player. You think life staff is better than fire staff? I S1 in groups, A if solo. That's the thing. Like I think an average life staff would be S. I think fire staff is still generally more value than life staff. Got to make a new tier list just for the island so life staff can be placed in B. Yeah. Do I just put the life staff on the top of S so we get a lot of new people to play life staff because it's like it's a good weapon and not enough people play it? Like, do I rig it a bit? That's the other thing. Like, I feel like life staff won't be bad on the island. I just don't know if it will be good. New category life staff. Life staff S plus hands down. Okay, I might cater to popular demand and put life staff higher because this one's like life staff's either going to be insane or it's not going to be good at all. What's a good build for someone that's always at 80 to 120 ping? SNS and then whatever secondary weapon you want. Always solid for 80 to 120 ping or fire staff plus any weapon or life staff plus any weapon. So I'll put life staff at the top of the list, just mostly because we're also talking about OPR and 3v3 here. Life staff, if you are playing 3v3 at all, is mandatory. If you don't have one, you auto lose. OPR, life staff is the highest carry role in the game. The island, in a 1v1 situation, there are a lot of weapons that cannot kill a life staff. So I think life staff's like just generally in a good spot. I just arrived. Is this from 2022? Why is there an Axe and A, Micro? This is for OPR 3v3 in the island. The reason why this is 2022 is because someone had a 2022 tier list, and it turns out there's only been one weapon added to New World in the last 2 years. So I just added it in a flail myself, and I used the same tier list. Chat thinks that life staff users are going to be unkillable, like an OPR. It's noobs using it. They'll animation cancel themselves to death. Okay, I might have to put life staff down a tier because I didn't think about that for a second too. The bad life staff players are not as bad as the bad fire staff players. Like if the fire staff skill spectrum is from like here to here, the life staff skill spectrum is like from like a lot higher to like also a lot lower. And I think our average player is probably going to be more in like this area, like kind of on that lower end. So I might put life staff at like it's still an S, but it's like not as high as fire staff because I think fire staff with just like flamethrower cheese stuff is just like very effective. Yeah, just wait till you see someone go FFA using Sacred Beacon and Orb. Yeah, and then it's not going to be fun at all. Like it will be good. I mean, I'm still putting in S tier. Like we all know life staff will be very effective. Musket is gonna be strong because of the target lock. I almost want to bump Ice Gauntlet down a tier now to like B and put Musket in like low A. But the thing with Musket too is like if you don't know how to dodge, it can be kind of bad, but I feel like Musket's gonna be relatively easy to do. Yeah, I think I'm gonna move Ice Gauntlet down and I'm going to put Musket up here. Do I think Musket is better than Hatchet on average? Yeah, I do. I think Musket's better than Hatchet. Like for a newer player. I don't think it's better than Axe, but I think it's better than Hatchet. Honestly, Greatsword's better than Ice Gauntlet too, and like mostly situated. No, it is, but the con change. I think I'm gonna still put Ice Gauntlet higher than Greatsword. I think Musket's a little bit better than Hatchet, just because it has a lot of slowing effects. It has the ability to create a decent enough distance because of its range, and target lock just makes it utterly stupid. It still has perma haste. Yeah, that also makes Musket like really strong. That being said, I think everyone hates players that play Musket. Would be more life staff players and OPR people learned how to peel. That is also true. No, like at a certain point, people just don't peel for life staff at all, and life staffs are just getting hunted down on both teams. It's like really rough. If IG player just pushes all three abilities to get decent value, yeah. I play musket and I hate musket players. This tier list would be so much easier if it was only for the island. We could do an only for the island one after, but I want to do a general one too because I feel like that's like the content that people will generally play is OPR 3v3 and the island. It's not just going to be the island. I could split it in like two segments or something like that. And then maybe we postpone the artifact one to a different day because this one's literally going to take a few hours to go through. And I don't, if this keeps going on, I don't know if it's worth doing that. Rapier in small scale is the best utility offhand by far, but it's not a good main hand. Like, Rapier has a dichotomy. It's a really, really good offhand. It's not a good main hand, which I think effectively just puts it in A tier. I think it's a little bit better than the hatchet, though. Now, Rapier with target lock might go insane. I mean, I don't think it'll be bad, but you're not going to flank people because people can target lock to you. Hatchet is good, but are people actually going to use it correctly? Hatchet feels so useless if you don't have a brain, especially at the tracking. I think Hatchet just inherently gets value because of a lot of its skills. Like, I agree with that, but I feel like Hatchet's like relatively easy to understand. Like, Hatchet's Berserk is okay. I have a cleanse ability. It also lets me do more damage. Like, social distance is just like a root if you want the root. Like, all the Hatchet's abilities are relatively strong. Well, okay, the right tree is kind of weak. But like, I feel like Hatchet's fine. Like, I feel like Hatchet's generally like more value than Ice Cone. I think it is more value than Greatsword. Like, I could see the argument of Hatchet being high B. But I think Hatchet still belongs in A. Like, I think it's a solid weapon. Okay, Spear. Do I think okay, Spear is really weird when you talk about small scale, because SNS does everything Spear does better in small scale, but Spear, when you're versus a melee weapon, is really, really solid. Yeah, I think Spear belongs in B. I think it's like near the top of B. Like, it's better than Greatsword in my opinion. I think it is better than Ice Gauntlet generally, but I don't think Spear is like crazy. Spear's kind of met on the island in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be met on the island, but like 3v3 Spear is solid. Like, we could do the island tier list after this one too, like kind of break it up. OPR Spear is like, it's fine, but I think there's still better options. Like, I think Hatchet's more effective than Spear in smaller scale. Yeah, you can't actually hit people from behind at the new patch too. That's the other problem with the Hatchet. Because if people target lock to you, there's literally no opportunity to get behind other people. Sword is easily an S tier. Um, is Sword better than Fire Staff? Yeah. I think Sword's still the best weapon in the game. Stop calling him back shots. Yeah, SNS is still the best weapon in the game. Yeah, I think it is. Like, I think it is in everything. Like, nothing really comes close to it. Bro, what the fuck? Spear is S? I think the problem with Spear and smaller scale is distance closing, which SNS solves. If you do SNS with Spear, like, it's a good combo. It's not good versus range, but it's really good versus melee. The main problem with Spear is I don't think Spear does well versus something like Musket versus something like... it actually does okay versus Fire Staff. Okay, I might switch Spear and Hatchet. I'm thinking about this now. Spear has effects that put people on the ground, and Grit just got removed, effectively. And Spear has Grit on those abilities, so I actually might swap Spear and Hatchet. I just thought about that. I didn't think about that before. I'm talking about Sweep mostly here. So, like, Sweep into to Perforate is a very consistent combo. Also, Sweep into Cyclone is a very consistent combo. And the thing about Sweep is it has Grit, and most people won't actively have grit because most people aren't going to be spamming heavy attacks. So that does make spear a decent amount better. Next patch. Bow and C, yeah, I'm at this point, like I feel like I can't explain bow and C too much more, but bows and C because the average bow player is not going to get value with bow. The best bows can be S tier. Like bow's the highest skill weapon in the game, but on average, I would say bow is not that good of a weapon for a newer player to pick up. Does VG do enough damage to kill a player with full focus? No, it does not. Void Gauntlet in small scale is honestly like D tier. And so is Flail. Flail has one more thing going for it, but I feel like the Void Gauntlet's just not good in small scale. Like Void Gauntlet's only good in large scale. Void Gauntlet's just utility. Like even Void Blade, like Void Blade is outclassed by every other weapon in the game. Like even Musket in close range, I think outclasses Void Blade. You get trapped and you can't get out. Like it's silly. Flail's perma weaken. Yeah, that's the thing. But Flail's only perma weaken if you're over 90% HP. And the thing that we're talking about is the new Flail artifact here. Power Stone. So this weaken effect applies to both your offhand and to your main hand. The cooldown is on each individual target, but the conditional is if your health's above 70% or 90%. I do not think that your health will on average be above 90% in 3v3 or on the island. I do think it will be above 90% in most circumstances in OPR, but I don't think it's above that consistent enough to really know how this will play out in small scale. In large scale, Flail got a lot better because of this artifact. And actually, Flail went up a tier or two. Like, I would not be surprised to start seeing 2 to 3 Flails next patch. Just because Power Stone is that good of an artifact. Like, even as a utility offhand, like, Power Stone's insane. Like, a free 20% weaken for your main hand, and you can just have Flail's utility. Like, that's nuts. But for smaller scale, Flail is still not good. It's better than Void Gauntlet. Trip is an okay effect. There is a one-shot combo Flail build that most people won't be able to play super effectively, and I think usually requires macros, so I don't think that's like something that we really want to talk about nor really encourage. So I'd still put Flail down in D. What's the grit changes? You only have grit if you're charging or using a heavy attack now at 300 con. BG Flail Horde. Musket is D- tier, not in small scale. Musket in small scale next patch with target lock's insane. The one thing I might change from this is I might put Rapier a little higher than Musket. Just because I think Rapier, like, in terms of being a good utility offhand, it's just better than, like, you never want to run Musket as an offhand. Rapier's like a solid offhand. It's also an okay main hand. But I think this is what I'd put. Like, anyone else have a strong opinion on something that I should probably change for, like, an OPR and 3v3 and, like, an island, so, like, a general PvP tier list, and then after this we can go to a, what do you call it, one? We can just do an island one. Lower BB. I think BB with target lock is good. That's my claim. I think BB with target lock is good. I think BB without target lock is not very good, and that's what we have right now. But I think with target lock, BB never misses a pellet. And crits don't matter. And people can't backstab you. And net shot is hella annoying in small scale. Like, I do think BB separates itself from bow and hammer. Like, from a general player. Like, I think I'm comfortable putting B at, like, the bottom, or putting Blunderbuss at the bottom of B. Like, I don't think it belongs in the same class as a bow and a hammer for an average player. You think sword is the best weapon right now? Yeah, it is. Without a doubt. It is. Sword is the best weapon because everything the sword does is just so strong. Like, if you want damage, you can go upheaval. Like, Whirling Blade is a good gap close. Leaping Strike is the best gap close in the game. Shield Bash is a free stun into a setup that you can do whatever you want as a combo build. Shield Rush has a really good weaken, has a really solid slow, and is a stagger, and can apply a Fortify yourself. It honestly does too much with one ability. It's one of the best abilities in the game. And Defender's Resolve is just insane in terms of like a damage reduction standpoint. And even if you have a round shield, you're increasing your damage while you have it and applying a damage reduction, and you're going to recover HP. And it boosts a bunch of other things, gives you a haste. It's like, it does, Sword does so much. Whirling Blade as a gap close. It is a small scale gap close. If you've used the artifact sword, like, you know what I'm talking about, but like a decent amount of people use Whirling Blade as like a small scale gap close to get a little bit closer to people, apply a bleed, and then use that bleed as a Ren that stacks for other effects. It scales your damage basically. But with Butcher, S is so good, or SNS is so good. SNS is S plus. Yeah, Sword and Fire Staff are very solid next patch. And they've been very solid for a long time, to be honest. Nothing carries bad players harder in small scale PvP in New World than currently than SNS. Yeah. It's B because of high skill floor. What are we talking about being B? If we're talking about Great Sword, it's the skill floor problem. The problem with Great Sword is if you're an onslaught stance and you don't know about the stance dancing, you're just gonna die. Like the French guy that got access to the raid opened my eyes, because this guy was an onslaught stance the entire time during the raid fight and kept getting one shot. And I think he was trying to figure out why he was getting one shot. And then like in a separate thread, he's like, yeah, I don't think we did well because we didn't have a tank. It's like, no, it's not just because you didn't have a tank. You actually like were very hard to watch. Like you were not juggling the stances at all. You weren't even dodging the attacks that were coming towards. Like you're asking to get one shot with Greatsword if you don't know what you're doing. Oh, for IG being so high? Oh, IG is just high because it's like very hard to mess up. Also, wind chill when you don't have grid is silly. People forget, but wind chill's got buffed a lot. Like wind chill, where's the root thing? Wind chill applies a root now, right? Is that tied to the actual ability itself? I thought wind chill applied a root. Even if it's just a knockback, wind chill is really, really good. It's a weapon perk that allows the root. Oh, I'm not looking at the weapon perk. I'm just looking at the ability description. It's like chilling. What is the wind chill thing called? Let me just look up Ice Gauntlet and I can backtrack it from there. It is Unbroken Winds. Yeah. So Wind Chill does 40% damage if Wind Chill hits a target 6 times in a row. They become rooted for 1 second. Oh, there's also one thing I didn't consider in this tier list, by the way. If you use lower gear score offhands, it will boost the damage of your main hand, and it will make it so that you take less damage, which effectively makes Rapier and Ice Gauntlet a lot better, because you could just use them as a pure utility offhand, and then you get a bonus to your main hand in terms of damage and in terms of damage reduction. I don't know why that's in the game. We've complained about it. Devs said they fixed it. They did not fix it. So you gain like a 5 to 10%, like depending on how hard you go, boost to your damage and damage reduction by using like a 25 gear score offhand. So don't salvage the one that you get from the beach. What do you think is good on staff right now? Use the artifact fire staff if you're gonna go fire staff, because they just buffed the heck out of it. They gave it a gem slot, and they made it so that the perk gives an extra 15% damage if you're within 15 meters. You have Keenly Empowered locked, you have Vicious locked. The last slot's probably Alacritus Punishment, if you could put that on there, or is Alacritus Punishment. Can you put Alacritus Punishment on there? Damage con. Proc. Damage con. So you can't put Alacritus Punishment on here. Alacritus Punishment got nerfed hard, though. It's still 15%, and haste is basically a given next patch. Does the 15% damage only work while it's on offhand? No, the 15% damage works if it's main hand or offhand. Attunement? Yeah, you probably put Attunement on there if you can't run Alacritus Punishment. Alacritus Punishment is really, really good, though, if you could run that on Fire Staff. but 15% damage within 15 meters is better than it. I don't know what to put because Fireball sucks right now. I mean, you could put Attunement. The other thing that you could put on here too, if you want to be like annoying, is you could put like Flamethrower on here. Like, it's not a bad perk. I wouldn't put Burnout, but Flamethrower is not a bad perk right now too. Like, it's not awful, or it's not great, but it's not bad. You could use the Flamethrower with the winged shoes, and then that will give you increased haste duration and give you base damage. So it's like, that's not a bad build. Play crits tomfoolery. Yeah, you could do that too. I think it's more of a large scale thing than a small scale thing, though, with play crits. Attunement of refreshing Pillar of Fire is nice to have. That CDR is helpful. Yeah, it is. Okay, I think that concludes the... what about the new fire staff with the dot perk? I know what you're talking about. I forget what the dot perk is called, but there's a perk where it's like if you hit someone with a dot, it's an armor perk, right? You hit someone with a dot, or they have a dot on them, and then you gain haste. Like, that's like a must-have for fire staff. But I think that that kind of concludes like OPR 3 Island, like kind of combined tier list. Like, I think this is like relatively safe to like say that this is like about what it will be in general. So like if you're a newer player, sword, fire staff, life staff are all really good options. Honestly, any weapon's fine as long as you get good with it, except for flail and void gauntlet for small scale. Like, those are just hard no-goes. But for everything else is like kind of a skill expression thing. What about the armoring penetration thing on empowered enemies? Someone did the math, and it's like having a 20% permanent run on enemies. Yeah, it's very good. Anything that has a way to mitigate armor is very, very strong and will be used for like great axe and stuff like this. You putting this on YouTube? Missed the first part? Yeah, I'll put this one on YouTube. The next one that we're going to do... So I think I'm going to do the artifact one a different day. Because if I do the artifact one on top of this, we're going to be going till like way too late. And I want to at least catch the end of the Padres-Dodgers game because... I want the Dodgers to lose, and that's fun. But we'll start over here. How do I restart this? Reset. Did it keep my flail? It got rid of my flail. Okay, there's my flail. There we go. So now we're going to do this for just the island. Bro watches regular season baseball. This is basically playoff baseball. Baseball got a lot better this year. It used to not be fun for me to watch. But now it's a lot better with the pitch clock. Have you ever seen a shield with a gem slot? I think it could happen illegally, but it's like it's not a thing that like really exists. There's a lot of like, another reason why SNS is so good as a weapon overall is because it has really OP illegal shields. Okay. You can't slot the gem in a shield satellite? Yeah, like I don't think you can, but there's probably one that's existed at some point in New World's lifetime because there's way too many bugs that have happened in this game. Musket Tamiya S tier with the island. Yeah. So we're gonna do an island tier list here. So this one's gonna be focused towards the new zone. I expect this to be heavily dominated by grouped muskets just stacking together and not letting other people having fun. I think the way that we go about this is you have to assume a fight is somewhat fair. So assume that the largest scale fight that you'll have is a 1v3, and anything above that you're going to lose with any weapon. Except for SNS if you're going to full tank build, in which case you probably won't lose a 1v3, you'll only lose like a 1v5 to a 1v10. But for every other weapon you will lose above 1v3, so it's like for those smaller scale fights, which weapons give you the best chance? A lot of this will come down to things that people don't think about, that I think about because I played Albion's Mist a lot, which they're calling the New World thing a Mist. Basically how it works in Albion. Actually, I could probably pull up a streamer that's doing the Mist stuff right now in Albion just to give a high-level overview of like what this looks like. Because there's a lot of streamers that play Albion than just do Mists, just so you guys get like an idea of like what I'm thinking about. Eckhart is really, really good, but he's doing a different thing.
Yeah, we don't.
Uh, so for how this works usually in the miss is a lot of the builds that are really, really good, and of course I get an ad right immediately, so I'm not going to do that. How it works is like a lot of this stuff is based off of movement. So you want the ability to choose when you want to go into an engagement. If you don't have enough movement, you're never going to be able to choose when or when not you want to go into an engagement. So you're just basically a sitting duck. What this means is you have to put Rapier as S tier because it's basically auto mandatory. Like, there's not a discussion about it. You need to have a Rapier because you need to have movement, and there's no other ability or no other thing that gives you a better advantage in terms of movement than Rapier in a game. So Hatchet and like Rapier are very, very, very good. Berserk and Run. Does Berserk still give haste? Berserk still gives haste, right? Yeah, while Berserk is active, your move speeds increase by 20%. So Hatchet, like these are auto S tier. You can't argue that Rapier and Hatchet aren't S tier just because movement is that important in a spot where you're having constant 1v1 engagements. The entire basis here is that you could choose when you have an engagement. Grace Sword, SSS tier. I don't think it's that good. It's good, but it's not that good. Okay, so, with that being established, does anyone disagree that Hatchet and Rapier are S tier as like a auto include? Like, does anyone disagree with that, or are we good with establishing that? And before we get into this, I'll check the YouTube side too. Hoplite Fire Staff does boost the damage of smolders. That's a different question. Let me answer that before I forget. This one. Potency of outgoing dots are increased by 15%. Yeah, it increases the damage of smolders. Yeah, that's how that works. The cooldown extension doesn't really matter, but yeah, that's how that works. What type of perk is this, by the way? It's a damage con. Okay. There's a lot of good damage con perks. That's probably not going to be influential in a lot of this stuff. This might sound dumb, but Musket plus Hatchet's the fastest combo in the game with haste traps. No, I played Albion and some other Battle Royale MOBAs like an Eternal Return, and battle right movement is the most important strat. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Albion that balances other weapons that's not present in the New World within the Mist is you have the ability to get in your mount at any point, and your mount has a health that's built into it. So if you get one tapped, or if you get shot by someone, you don't instantly get off your mount in Albion. So you can like run around a bit more on your mount and use that to kind of subsidize for the mobility loss that you have with other weapons. In New World, that's not the case. So you have to run a mobility-based setup for the most part. There's a few exceptions to that. Like if you are a pure tank, you don't need infinite movement. Okay. So Blunderbuss on the island, getting into this now, I think Blunderbuss is going to have a really hard time gap closing on the island. And I think Blunderbuss is completely outclassed by things like, if you think of mobility-based combos, like you're not going to be able to gap close super well. You are going to be able to knock people off of mounts if you can use mounts on the island. Does anyone know if you could use mounts on the island or not? Because I wasn't part of the NDA build. Someone leak that real quick. If you could use mounts there. Because if you use mounts, this changes a lot. B tier just for net shot. I mean, that's the thing with Blunderbuss, is like the entire thing with it is just going to be about net shot, because nothing else will matter. But Musket or Blunderbuss is bad for escaping. So like I feel like you can't rate it that high just for net shot. Yes, you can. You can use mounts. Okay, so Blunderbuss is decent then because you can knock people off of mounts really consistently. You could use net shot to basically what Blunderbuss is Blunderbuss on this island is a weapon that is good at catching people that are trying to run away and then running them down. That makes it really, really good anytime that you want to try to like catch a juicy PvEer and finish them off. Like you will not get a better weapon than Blunderbuss at catching people and finishing them off, except for Musket. Musket's the only one that's better than Blunderbuss. I think that makes Blunderbuss like high B, low A. Like it's really it's solid just because of the ability just to net shot people for the most part and knock them off mounts. Micro sleeping on Mortal Refreshment, Mortar BB squads. Dude, Mortal Refreshment, he killed the mobs? Yes. uh Picking an East server to dodge supple. To be honest, supple's not really existing after the patch. Like they'll exist, but they're not really existing. Like it's going to be like dumbed down a lot, and that's like larger scale stuff. But I think Blunderbuss is going to be like a very solid choice for the island. I think it's like higher B, lower tier A. I'm going to park it in higher tier B for now, so we don't get too many things going in like S, A, B, like those higher ends. But that's kind of my thoughts there. Is it's really good at basically tracking people down. Moving on to Bo here. Does Bo have a way to slow people down? Bo has decent movement. Like, for after dodging with full stamina, you gain a 10% haste. Does Bo have a slow, though? If Bo doesn't have a slow, I can't put it higher than B tier. Rain of Arrows is a slow, but it's a gross slow. 10% slow at full health plus Rain of Arrows. Where's the full health one? Oh, if you hit a target with 100% health, inflict a 10% slow for 2 seconds. That's not that long of a slow, though. The only slow is a Vade shot. I don't think you could use Bow here. No real slow. Yeah, I puts Bow in C tier again. Stagger with the Vade. Yeah, I mean, the problem that you'll run into Bow is people would be able to disengage versus the Bow, and you wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Like, Blunderbuss is unironically better than the Bow in this environment because you can hit people with net shot and actually, like, trigger a fight. And you can also use net shot to get away. Like, Bow, it's okay. I don't think it'll be that good, though. Ice Gauntlet is completely outclassed by Rapier and Hatchet in this sort of environment. 10% dodge, 10% with the weapon swap to Bow. Yeah, I still don't think Bow has enough to really be good there. Like the argument is you have to run Hatchet or a Rapier, which both bows run Rapier and Hatchet, and those are both good with Bow, but they're used as utility. So now your Bow has to be able to hit people off of a mount, be able to slow people and gap close. And I'd rather have a Blunderbuss, and I'd also rather have a musket. Like it's okay, it's just not as good. Ice Gauntlet, I don't think is usable in this environment for the most part. The main thing Ice Gauntlet has going for it in this environment is it's the only way you have access to a easy cleanse besides going for Hatchet. Also, I think Hatchet's better than Rapier in this environment. So, and then other than that, Ice Gauntlet doesn't have a way to create distance really. Ice Pylon is okay, but of course you have to fight around it, which doesn't make it as good. I think Ice Gauntlet's also like a C tier to D tier weapon in this kind of thing. Like I don't think Ice Gauntlet works. But like Ice Gauntlet has a few things that are decent in terms of utilities, but I'd rather have a Rapier and I'd rather have a Hatchet because they allow me to create more distance and actually escape a fight. And Ice Gauntlet won't be able to escape a fight for free, so you're forced to fight. And if you're forced to fight, I don't think it provides quite enough. Ice Pylon's about to get accidentally one-shot by aimbot. I mean, Ice Pylon could also pull aggro PvE mobs too. Like people forget that, and if it pulls aggro of a PvE mob, like it's basically useless. Resilient was deleted, right? Was it replaced with like a mandatory perk? Resilient is effectively a passive. If you run heavier armor sets, you have more effective Resilient now. So yeah, I don't think Ice Pylon works in this environment. Fire Staff does work in this environment, but I don't think it's as good as people will initially think. That being said, I think it's still really good. I think fighting a Fire Staff in New World is basically like fighting a Curse Staff in Albion, but it has a little bit better movement, which means it could punch like above where you would think it would, but it doesn't like, it won't take over everything. I still think it ends up in A tier though. Like Fire Staff, it's very hard to put Fire Staff anything like lower than A tier. It's just a very solid weapon. Fire Staff Abyss allows for a lot of mobility. Yeah, burnout plus charge. Yeah, that's true. Fire Staff Abyss, it would be really good. That is a really good combo. There's no alternatives, no mandatories like what Resilient once was. Yeah, I mean, some people have argued that like health is mandatory to some extent. We thought they changed health. Turns out they only changed health's name. They didn't actually change health in the back end. So I think health is still really good in spots where you're not being consistently healed, but the instant you could take into consideration pots, health starts falling off. Uh, I don't think there's a really a mandatory perk. The perks to like look out for in terms of this are like shirking heals is like a really good perk. The new artifact chess piece is like very good in this sort of environment. What is it called? Survivor's Coat. So if you get hit while your health is below 50%, gain 50 stamina, lose all debuffs, gain a potion surge that will recharge your next healing potion instantly. So you can just pop another pot. Like, that is insane in this environment. Endless Thirst is insane in this environment because it's all pot-based stuff. Like, there's some things that you just, like, kind of can't get around. Like, you kind of need Endless Thirst. Survivor's Code is mandatory if you're in medium or heavy armor, in my opinion. Just because the extra health just makes fights unfair. But getting back to this, I think Fire Staff is just, it's always going to be good in this environment. It's not like the problem that Fire Staff will have is it doesn't have a way to easily inflict a slow, but it has enough movement, and if anyone takes a fight with the Fire Staff, they're always going to be taking dot damage. There's not good cleanse effects in the game right now, so I think Fire Staff will just always be good. That's insane. Yeah, that's one of the best and most underrated artifacts that I've seen that's come out, especially for this kind of format with the island. Great Axe is really good. You have Charge, you have Crippling Reap, which basically borderline puts it in S tier. It's definitely above Fire Staff because you have access to more movement. The problem with Great Axe will be that most people want to run it in light, and it's going to lose really heavily to musket. Unless you get the drop on a musket. But if there's 2 muskets or more, you're going to be the first target as the Great Axe player, and you're probably just going to die instantly. And I still think it belongs in A tier though, but it's like it's kind of sketchy. Dang, you guys aren't chirping as much. Are people agreeing with my opinions, or did people just not know where stuff stands? Great Sword can block all ranged attacks. Okay, if you're using Great Sword to block ranged attacks, you're not playing Great Sword correctly. In terms of like, the right tree with Greatsword is just strictly worse than going SNS and then using a heavy shield and just holding right click. Because the blocks are just not consistent with Greatsword. Like, Greatsword is really good in PvE as a tank because you can min-max that mechanic to block things, but in terms of PvP, it's not usually consistent enough to get enough value with that. I think Greatsword will be okay in this up-and-coming thing, though. I think it's either... It's like between B and A. Because it has access to good movement. It has access to a thing that will cleanse root effects, but Onslaught stance is just a death sentence. Like, you just can't go in Onslaught at all unless you're PvEing. Great Axe is Bloodlust 2, good for catching people. It's better than BB. BB net shot versus Greatsword, though, that's the thing. Axe loses to Greatsword, so it's kind of just an offhand. It does, but Great Axe is the best weapon in the game versus ranged, and this is likely going to be a dominated by ranged situation. And like, the thing with this is why we talked about the movement stuff earlier, right? Because then you could pick your fights. Like, say I'm a Great Axe player and I see a Greatsword, I just don't fight him. Like, if you think you're going to lose that fight, just don't fight him. You have the ability to choose which fight you pick because you have more mobility. Greatsword doesn't have a ton of mobility. It has okay mobility. The new artifact actually gives it a lot more mobility, though, and will probably have to be used a lot. It's definitely in the same tier as the Blunderbuss. I'm not sure if it's better or not. I don't think Greatsword's better than Firestaff. I can go with this, but I wouldn't put Greatsword in the same tier as Firestaff and Great Axe in this environment. Like, this is going to be like a movement heavily thing. So your question is, what do you play with the Great Axe with? I mean, you could play Great Axe with Firestaff, and that's very effective. You could play Great Axe with Hatchet. That's like an old skill combo, and that would be like decently effective. Or you could play Great Axe with Sword and Shield, and that's going to be very effective. Like, you have options there. I'm playing VG Flail with heavy armor, but I feel like this is not a great combo. VG Flail with heavy armor is a really good combo from a utility standpoint in OPR and in war, but other than that, it's not usable. It is only usable if you have access to consistent heals, and if having a large amount of weakens will make a large difference in a fight, and that only applies to larger scale situations. Play it with Greatsword would beat the other Greatsword. Is this a running tier? Because Hatchet BB is an insanely hard to kill combo. Hatchet BB, your issue will be gap closing, but Hatchet BB will be decently strong in this, yes. Lil BB Biss, definitely not, but I wish. No mention of Great Axe Scorpion, so underrated Sag. I mean, yeah, not a common combo, but a decent combo. The issue you run into is if you go into any deck scaling, then your spear is your main source of damage now, and your Great Axe becomes a full utility weapon. And if you run just full strength, then your spear doesn't have great damage. Like it fights itself. That build fights itself. Hammer, I don't think works at all on the island. I'm not gonna lie. The only spot that hammer works is if you can ambush people in a one-shot combo. And I don't think that's gonna happen very often. So I'm just gonna throw that in D and call it a day. Life staff will be the target that everyone picks on. If anyone sees a life staff, they're gonna fight it just because they can. Is Great Axe main build? Yeah. Yeah, usually Great Axe is the main build with strength. With a Great Axe spear. Life staff just kind of lets you tank. Yeah, it's like, it's fine. But I don't know if it's like, life staff's like kind of hard to rate because it'll exist, but like, I don't know if you could even do the PvE side on this island with a life staff. Like I don't think you could do life staff rapier and focus on PvE. Like I don't think that really quite works. Like you have okay enough damage, but it's not good damage. Another question, I watched your Flail VG video and I was wondering if Baleful Tether with the slow perk is a good alternative to Orb of Decay. Yeah, Tether is really, really good in small scale, or smaller scale with Flail VG. The question is if Life Staff will also heal the opponent. It will not heal the opponent. I think Life Staff is going to be more effective than Bow. It's going to be more effective than Ice Gauntlet. I think it'll be more effective than Blunderbuss. I think it will lose to Greatsword. I think it will lose to Fire Staff in general, and Great Axe is pretty close. I think it belongs like mid B. In all reality, we'll probably be crawling with perma hasted muskets teaming that will just 3-2-1 players 24/7. That's most likely what's going to happen. Like musket on this island, it's really hard to put it anywhere below A for a general player, and it would be like upper half of A, I think. A lot of the musket stuff comes down to, is there enough foliage to prevent other people from getting to you? I'd put life staff in low C. I think a bow can never kill a life staff. I think a blunderbuss can never kill a life staff. I think an ice gauntlet can never kill a life staff, and that's why I put life staff in B. I can see why people would want to put it lower because it won't do anything, but like you could still PvE with a life staff. It gets something. It just doesn't die. Musket is S tier. I don't know if it's S tier. It's definitely high A. I think it's more effective than Great Axe in general in this environment. It's probably S. Yeah, it's probably S, to be honest. Most of the foliage is hidden by NVIDIA Profile Inspector anyways, Micro. Yeah. Musket's the best third-party weapon. Yep, because you could just trade and don't have to worry about anything. I'm still going to put the offhands above Musket because those are something that like you just need to have no matter what. But Musket definitely is like, I think it's kind of crazy. Is Powder Burn getting changed? Its dot damage is getting reduced, but it's still slow. It has access to haste bills, pairs with Hatchet Rapier. Yeah, Musket is going to be crazy strong. There's morons dying to life staff flail or life staff rapier players all the time. Some people don't understand the breaking contact. Yeah, I mean the thing with life staff is like it's a DPS check. Like if you don't have enough DPS to kill a life staff, you just auto lose. But the life staff's also never going to be able to chase you down, so it's generally a weapon that just exists. Every single rock I can climb will have a musket on it. I mean, definitely near the entrance, maybe further in, less, but the spear, for assuming fights will be smaller, is not going to be that good because it's not good at gap closing. With Scorpion, it's a bit better. It doesn't have access to slows except for Cyclone. Cyclone is a good slow. I think that puts it like above Life Staff but below Greatsword because I think Greatsword has access to better movement and movement matters more. Greatsword also has a way to cleanse stuff. Life Staff Void Blades Chads rise up. It'd be funny to see that exist. Cyclone has a 2-second cooldown, basically. Yeah, like Spear's best ability is Cyclone. Spear is really good from the PvE side, though. Like, if you just focus on PvE, you definitely can get around with, like, Spear SNS or something like that. Spear has the best tracking in the game. No. I think SNS has best tracking in the game, but Spear's close. Spear is close. SNS is crazy. SNS is also S tier. I will fight that one. SNS is also S tier. Like, the dichotomy is you either go high damage or you just go heavy, have a shield, and you don't take damage. I think Warhammer is better than Ice Gauntlet on the PvE side. Yeah, I'll put Ice Gauntlet in D. I won't fight too hard on that. Like, you shouldn't be using Warhammer or Ice Gauntlet in this environment, though. And you can gear swap on the island. Yeah, that's the other thing, too, that, like, this isn't really taking full consideration of, is you could have multiple builds that you swap between depending on matchups. So, like, you could set up your gear accordingly, or, like, your, what do you call them? Your loadouts accordingly, so that if you like a certain matchup versus a certain player, you swap. Like, say I'm playing Great Axe, Fire Staff, and I see a musket player I want to kill. I might swap to Great Axe, Sword and Shield because that's a better matchup versus musket. Spear higher. Spear's definitely not higher, and like, Spear is really good if a melee player wants to fight you. If someone's just shooting you from range, Spear is terrible. Spear is decent, though. It makes up for that if it's paired with Sword and Shield. And that's the spot where, like, I think you can argue that Spear could be higher is if you rate it with Sword and Shield, but, like, this isn't combined. This is separate right now. Spear's survivability is better than Great Axe, and it has Scorpion. Spear doesn't have the ability to run away. Great Axe has the ability to run away. Therefore, Great Axe is better on the island. I don't think it's more complicated than that. But Spear pairs with SNS? Yes, but I'd still rather have SNS Great Axe on the island because I have more abilities to run away. You gotta do weapon combos next. The weapon combo tier list, I probably would have to break up to a different day because it will take an hour and a half to 2 hours to go through a weapon combo tier list. Same thing with the artifacts. This will take literally an hour and a half to 2 hours. This one, I am going over like 12 things, and this is taking me like half an hour to 45 minutes per one that we're doing. Mikro, what do you pair Spear to? Checkmate. You said the wrong pair. That's like pear as in the fruit. Why are you using a pear on your Spear? There's like 100 combos. Yeah, we did, like, before we've done that, and we broke it up into like realistic combos to save time, and it still took like 2 to 3 hours to go through a weapon combo tier list. Love this content, so I don't mind spending 8 hours on it. I know some people don't mind, but there was a Padres-Dodgers game, and it's fun for me to watch them because they're both good teams. And I want to watch that within the next hour and a half. At least the end of the game. Oh. Only fruit on the island is coconuts? Okay, but Spear is definitely higher than Greatsword. Not with the Artifact Greatsword. The Artifact Greatsword makes Greatsword better. The new one, Grace. Because every time you enter an offensive stance, you gain 6 seconds of 20% move haste, and this applies even if you swap weapons. So I can just get the haste, switch weapons, have no downside, and then I can just zoom around the map. Grace enables Greatsword to be a little bit better than where you normally would think. And it's a new artifact. Where does it even drop from, by the way? Oh, you could just... I don't know where it drops from. Grace artifact, and then it doesn't link anywhere. Oh, it's from the season pass level 80. So, it's not that hard to get. But you weren't counting secondary hand for spear as a mage in my head, so biased. Even as a main hand, like I'm talking about mobility stuff here. Like that's what it comes down to. Is like the idea here is you want mobility or you want the ability to slow someone else so you have mobility. Fire Staff's only an A tier because it's Fire Staff. If it wasn't Fire Staff, it wouldn't be an A tier. It's just like Fire Staff just wins 1v1s, and it's annoying, but it just wins 1v1s because it could just dot affect you and just like do stupid things. What is the haste cap? 50%. How do you make the best out of the offensive speed on it? You would want to basically just use Relentless Rush. I think if you hit someone, you go into Onslaught stance, or no, you get 20% haste when hitting a target with an Onslaught tree ability. So you use Relentless Rush, you hit a mob, you gain 20% haste from this, you gain 20% haste from Grace, and you're zooming around at 40% haste. So it's just a high mobility thing. No, there is a very, very, very big difference between 40% passive haste and a greatsword and Spear's mobility. Spear's mobility is some of the worst in the game. Plus keen speed. Did I miss the tier list? You missed a couple. I'll put them up on YouTube too. I still need to do Void Gauntlet and Flail, which are both in D tier. Is there a reason to put Flail higher? The Weekend I don't think will work really well. Void Gauntlet is okay, but it's not good enough. VG has a lot of slows. Yeah, but you have to be close. That's the problem with VG. Like, you have a slow from Scream, you have a slow from Tether. The Tether is really nice as like an offhand sometimes because... Do I need to think about VG as an offhand too because of Tether? Because this is just like a free 20% in power and a slow, and it's like actually annoying in a 1v1. Like, unironically, the only ability that's... Okay, there's two abilities that are really good at VG in a 1v1 situation, and they're both cheese abilities. Tether's kind of insane, and Essence Rupture's kind of insane. Fuck. I guess I do have to think about that. Put it in C. Only because of the offhand stuff with VG, which I want to think about these more as main hands, but Tether is like such a good thing that it's like hard to ignore it. Life Taker might make it B tier. Oh, that's true. And it pairs really well with Musket. And Orb has a slow too, only if the other target has a dot on it or something else. Hammer can't be D. Crying. How are you going to close distance with Hammer? I think Blunder is still better than Void Gauntlet. Like, even if like I'm thinking about Musket offhands, like if I wanted to go for a Void Gauntlet offhand, I think Pest is still better. Yeah, I think Pest would be better if you had to like go a greedy offhand. This is just weapons, no artifacts though. It's not artifacts, but you have to like take into account artifacts too. Like with the weapons, like they kind of go hand in hand. Like if I were to rate Greatsword without Grace existing, it would be a tier, well, half a tier lower. It would still be in B, but it would be lower. Like you have to take into account some of them to some extent. Like the Fire Stab artifacts makes it a lot better. Sword artifact doesn't really matter. Then Rapier doesn't really matter. Hatchet has a pretty good artifact with Sin that extends the duration of debuffs. Like that's not bad. See, how many people do we have? Do we just send another tier list? Have they said anything about tab lock net yet? No, we're assuming that that's going to exist when it comes out. It's very likely it's going to exist. I've reached out to devs, I've reached out to moderators, and they all don't have a strong opinion on it, which means that they don't want to say that it's going to exist, but it's probably going to exist. You have to think about it from a timeline standpoint too with AGS. If they weren't going to release aimbot, they would need to release aim assist Otherwise, console players are like probably not gonna have a great first experience in general. Um, and I don't think they have aim assist ready. So I think their hand is forced, and that's the assumption I'm making. But it's really ugly. I think Greatsword should go up a tier so it's prettier. It's not the same tier as Fire Staff though, or Axe. It's just not. With Grace, like if you just were to take into account Grace, like maybe. Even then, probably not. Another case for Spear S, you don't need to run away if you could hit the enemy a Scorpion. That is true. I would have a hard time, like I feel like Greatsword and Spear kind of separate themselves from Lifestaff and Blunderbuss. Like I could see an argument for moving these two down a tier so that they're like more unique, but I still think there's a tier gap between Greatsword, Spear, and Firestaff Axe. I think Blunderbuss does belong in the same tier just because of net shot. Best weapon combo in the S tier. Musket Hatchet. Or Sword and Shield Great Axe. Or with the two I'd put money on. SNS Hatchet's gonna be nasty. SNS Hatchet's not bad either. I think Great Axe is just so oppressive in like a 1v1 environment where you're talking about gap close and you're talking about kite ability. Like Great Axe could actually cover like 20 meters of distance alone with just like charge shenanigans, and then you have like Reap on top of that. It's so good at gap closing. It's like it's better than Sword and Light. The Great Axe is actually better than Sword and Light. If you're going like heavy though, like it's a lot less good. For actual 1v1s with forced fights, I still think SNS Spear is still Biss. Yeah, there's definitely an argument there. Like in terms of a combo thing. I played Abyss the most before I quit in a lot of bruisers. I can't see how and a lot of bruiser. I can't see how Great Axe is bad in this mode. It's good. Yeah. It hasn't changed that much. I mean, the main thing is like the losing grit, but I don't think that matters as much for this mode. So Fire Abyss will perform well on the island. Yeah, Fire Staff Abyss will perform well on this island. Yeah, it will do well. Like I don't think, like if I were to rate like the top like 3 combos like that I could think of right now, I think Musket and then honestly Rapier or Hatchet are equally viable for Musket, but I think Hatchet's slightly better because it has a cleanse. But Rapier does more damage. And you have the artifact. You could do Hatchet or Rapier. Like you could do Hatchet or you could do or Rape. Like both of them are about the same because they both have good utility artifacts. No one will use Rapier for damage. No, they won't. But the Rapier artifact, if you apply a bleed with a musket, will increase your damage on the musket, which inherently makes it good utility. So this looks so ugly. Like I can't write like words super well with this. I think like after that, it's gonna be like SNS, probably Spear, and then after that, it's gonna be like Great Axe Fire Staff. Like those are like the top 3 if I had to pick like what would be like really good for this kind of mode. Bro, what are we tier list? Are we listing? We're doing the island, the PvP island right now. Hear me out. Musket, Great Axe, Tempest Fury, Greatsword utility. That's 3 weapons. That's 3 weapons. What do you want? Oh, Great Axe utility. I mean, he won't do damage with the Great Axe at all. I mean, he can disengage, but it won't do damage. For SNS Spear, light or medium better? Heavy. Do you ever go medium with it? No. Yeah, heavy. Heavy. Yeah. That's the other problem when you do a weapon combo tier list is you also take into account lighter, medium, or heavy. Anytime you have an SNS, heavy is just better because your shield affects your armor. Uh, and you can run a lighter shield with the heavy stuff, but like you just want to maximize your armor, and if you run a shield that counts as weapon weight, which will drop your armor, it makes you take more damage. So if you run heavy, you don't have to take that into consideration. Where would you put Firestaff Rapier? Like it'll be solid. Like if I were to like arbitrarily do like a thing off the top of that, it would probably be like A tier. Like it'll be really good, but it won't be like S tier. 3/3 weapon slot confirmed. Let's go. See if I missed anything from the YouTube chat that I need to catch up on. Tab block is amazing. So what would the best combo be? Hatchet / Rapier? No, the reason why a Hatchet and Rapier are up here is you need to run Hatchet or Rapier. These are like more offhands. They're not really main hands. Like you could argue Hatchet could be a main hand, which is why I put it above Rapier. But if you're not running Hatchet or Rapier, like there are very, very few builds that can get away with that. Like Sword and Shield can get away with that with something like Spear. You can get away with Firestaff Great Axe, but otherwise you need to run Hatchet or you need to run Rapier as an offhand. And the other thing too is if you're on a low gear score Hatchet or a low gear score Rapier, that will boost the damage of your main hand, so it makes the utility offhands even better. Which is like a weird mechanic that shouldn't exist. But it does. What about Ankh next patch? Okay, if there's this many people here still, we might be able to go through the artifact tier list, but we're gonna have to go like kind of fast if we go through the artifact tier list. Because Ankh is really bad in small scale, but it's really good in everything else. Okay. So that was 2 tier lists. One of them was just the island. One of them was OPR, 3v3, and the island, not including war, because realistically, like 1 to 2% of players will play war, probably even less than that because they're increasing the server capacity. So I don't think it's really worth making a ton of stuff about war content. Ankh off on island. Yeah, Ankh is a debuff in the island. So I have every artifact that's come out. There's 45 of them. And we could talk about the artifacts. It's going to be really hard to go through this like kind of quickly. It's the only problem. And this is going to get like all weird because like if I throw in like 3 of these or something like that, it's going to drop down a line. So it's going to get pretty weird pretty fast. I think we save artifacts for next stream, Micro. Okay. Man's already got the tier list. I've got a folder with just all the artifacts because I didn't want to take pictures again. Crush, if we save it for next tier list though, and I have like half an hour to an hour, what do we do? So the other thing. I don't have much else prepped. It's the issue. Just place them all in D tier. A lot of them are D tier. A lot of them are F tier too. But we don't go that low. Weapon combos? Weapon combos will also take an hour to an hour and a half. And to do weapon combos, I probably need to do this off screen or I'm gonna leak everything about myself. Season 2 weapon tier list. What is this? God, that is not what I was looking for. Do I have a weapon tier list off the top of my head to go to? I don't even know if I have one of these. Because I made one at one point. Build tier list. That's a war one. Oh. Someone make one of these for ultimates? I could do an ultimate tier list. That wouldn't take too long. Why do I have a faster than light tier list? Why do I have a tier list from the Raging Unicorn of what? Dude, what even is this? I have this in my Google Doc and I don't even know what this is. What? It's just the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It's like something Marvel related. Oh, I know what this is. This is Marvel Strike Force. Because I played that game up for like a month. They mentioned no balance patch before the release, though. I don't think so. Yeah, Crush, the problem is I don't think I can get through this. I can get through this if I'm like really, really fast with it. And then we go over after things that we think should move, but that's about it. Like it would have to be like really, really fast. I don't think it would be as good. Like I think, yeah, I think I agree with you. This is better as a separate day. Um, is there anything, any other way to use this tier list too? I guess would be the other question. Like, would anyone want to see like a new player tier list or like a PvE tier list, or should we not do that? 20 days till I'd rather have an in-depth discussion about it. Yeah, that's the thing is I'd rather do an in-depth discussion, but I don't think I have time to do anything else. 1v1 tier list. I mean, this basically is a 1v1 tier list in terms of the island one is basically a 1v1 one. The only weird part about 1v1 duels is cheese combos are really good. But cheese combos often don't have gap closes. Most bow newbies gather or gravitate towards bow for PvE anyway. I mean, yeah, I don't think bow's like an effective weapon for most things, but I mean, we could do a fresh start tier list in terms of like what weapon you should go like off the gate at a fresh start server. I think that one actually could be helpful for some people and also would cater towards the newbies. Like that one I think we could do. Hatchet, 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 hatchet. Hey, that's supposed to be the basis of this. Does a artifact tier list for each weapon combo make sense? It's too much. If you get into too many combinations, the tier lists take hours. It's better just to do examples of builds. So I could, okay, hey, I'll let you guys say which one you'd rather see. Would you guys rather see a fresh start tier list, or would you rather see a build guide for a weapon combo? I think either one of those I can get done in like an hour. Factoring in crafting skill boosts. Uh, we could attempt to, but it'd be a little bit more complicated. Build guide. Build guide weapon combo. What would you do for the fresh start? I think people want to see the weapon combo stuff and like how I go about building things. Fresh start pointless. People should just play what they want to play. Yeah. I mean, we could do a weapon combo one. So, if we're doing a weapon combo one, I want to introduce people to New World Buddy because New World Buddy has a way to make a weapon combo oriented thing. Very, very easily. And let's see if I remember how to do this. I think you go to gear sets or you go to inventory. One of these. Oh, is it gear set? Yeah, you do gear set, and then you can create a new gear set in New World Buddy. And then this will calculate a bunch of stuff built into the kit. You know, you should make a weapon buddy guide, bro. I mean, I'll make one. Now the question is, what weapon build would you guys want to see optimized? And I guess that would be the question. Like, if you guys throw some in the chat, then I could put a poll up on the Twitch side. I don't think I put a poll up on the YouTube side. Like, I don't think they connect. And then we can make one. Paste on YouTube chat. VGBB, Greatsword Hatchet, Warhammer IG. This is the thing, is it gets very, very weird. There's a lot of different combos. I'd like to know where you would gear with an A tier combo. Make it more interesting than S tier because the combo's already so strong. I mean, there is one weapon that I kind of want to figure out how to build, but I'm like, it's kind of a boring one to do at first. But the fire staff with the artifacts that got changed might be an interesting build combo. Because that's fundamentally different than what it was. VGBB is a really fun combo, but realistically, it's not super viable outside of like fun stuff. Like it's to be honest, it's a clickbaity combo. Like I can make a video on that or like talk about it, but it would, even if I were to optimize that, it would be D tier. Like I made that work at one point and it was really good before BB got heavily nerfed, but BB got nerfed so much that it doesn't work as well anymore. It's crazy for 1v1. Yeah, it's still good for like small scale. It's just it doesn't have a way to recover. Greatsword Hatchet, lowest skill ceiling, a decent output, probably get decent views on YouTube too. Greatsword Hatchet's not a easy combo. SNS and other stuff is an easier combo. SNS plus Great Axe better for confirming kills. He ignores YouTube chat. I read the YouTube chat too. You're just on a different monitor. It's hard for me to read the YouTube and the chat in the Twitch chat at the same time because I have two monitors, so I keep going back and forth. You think New World will hit 100k, more like 30k people in October? I think it'll hit like 70, 80, but we won't know. I used to say 50, now I think it's a little bit higher. Okay. Let's say this. Would you guys rather see a build with Fire Staff, Greatsword, or Sword and Shield? Let's do it that way. I could put a poll out for that if we want. And just make it really quick. So I put a poll out there. Fire Staff Union for life. Do Fire Staff. Okay. I want to see a cheesy flail build. There are some really cheesy flail builds, but they involve using macros, so they're only like really good for PC players, and also macros are bannable. But there is the only one-shot combo build left in the game is with SNS and flail, and there's only a handful of people that know how to do it, and the people that know how to do it usually use macros because it's very hard to execute on. I mean, for Fire Staff Ice Golem, what artifact did he use? Probably the Fire Staff one. Okay, so it looks like we're doing with Fire Staff. Based off this poll. What offhand do you guys want? Do you want it with Rapier, the Abyss, or Ice Gauntlet? I could do a strength one, but I don't have faith that they're going to make the dot stuff work with strength. So I think we do Rapier, the Abyss, or Ice Gauntlet. Is Flail really niche, aka B minus A minus, B plus A minus? Flail's combo is like only good if you can ambush somebody, and if you actually have to straight up fight someone, it doesn't really work well. It also revolves around hitting people from behind often. Abyss, do Fire Step Artifact, no Abyss. IG better for wars. IG. I feel like I might make a poll for this one too. So we're doing Fire Staff. I'll look at the YouTube chat too and try to take it into account with the poll. Do the SNS flail combo. It's another clickbaity one. That's the problem. Like, I'd rather start with like I mean, honestly, it's a good time to do clickbaity videos because people won't know the difference between a fake build and a real build. But I feel bad telling new players to play a fake build. Like, I could tell people to play SNS flail, but that build is like D tier. It's actually D tier. It's good in like 2 situations. Just choose whatever combo you like. I've got more for the Abyss right now than Rapier and Ice Gauntlet. Did you clarify if this build's going to be used for all scenarios or just OPR? Uh, I didn't clarify it. No matter what, if it's a Fire Staff build, it's going to be optimized for light. So it looks like we're doing the Abyss Fire Staff. But with the Abyss, you're pretty much doing Greatsword, no, not Fire Staff. Kind of. They juggle between each other. It's kind of like how flail works with VG, where the two weapons juggle between each other. Like it's not one's a main hand, one's an offhand. They both are main hands and both are offhands, and it's situational. It's a relatively hard combo to play. That being said, usually if you build a tier list or you build a thing like this, you start with the weapon that would be the artifact first. So where's the Abyss? There's the Abyss. So we got our Abyss, and then was it called? Gorgon Firestaff. I'm also gonna assume that you're able to get gear that doesn't have Magnify, which is a really big assumption. Does bow spear pretty much suck? Bow spear is really, really greedy. You don't have a way to escape. And it's worse for range and it's worse for up close. So yes, it usually just sucks. Usually with New World, you want to play to your strength, not be the best of both worlds or the worst of both worlds. Like in PvE, you can get away with bow spear, but like when it comes to PvP, it's not a good idea usually. It's fun though. If you use Abyss and you can't use a new Fire Staff artifact, that's the problem I don't really like about going with the Abyss. It does kill a lot of the creativity. I might make an executive decision and do Fire Staff Rapier, because I think this is just something that more people will go. Because the poll was relatively close, and I think the new Fire Staff argument or artifact will make stuff a little bit cooler. And this is like a build that like a lot of people will play. Wait, they don't have a Rapier that has... Oh wait. Do I do the funny thing? Oh my god, I might do the funny thing. Yeah, because that Rapier is actually better than most Rapiers that you can get. This also should be 725. Even though you lose stats, you end up making up for that stats and you end up doing more damage with a 75 gear score Rapier. And we tested that in a live game. So, like, I hate telling people that is BIS, but that is BIS. In terms of our empty socket... Wait, does this work right now? It does. Why can't I choose a gem? Well, I'll just do the perk first. Are fresh starts locked out of the 75 gear score weapons from pre-eternum? I don't know. Wait, how does that work? Basically, how damage and reduction is considered in New World is gear score or average gear score is a stat that, and the lower your average gear score is, if your average gear score is a lot lower than your main weapons gear score, you'll end up doing more damage for some reason. I don't really understand. Well, I understand why in terms of math, but I don't understand why they implemented it that way. And you also take less damage if you have a lower average gear score. So like a level 1 player will take less damage than a level 65 player, like with the same specs. Why is it common Rapier BIS? It shouldn't be BIS, but it is BIS. In terms of like the perk that we want on our Fire Staff, it's probably just going to either be attunement or it's going to be something that's related to haste. You can't get damage con on here. I thought Vicious is damage con. Yeah, they mark it. Okay, so the red ones we can't use. So it's probably just going to be Flame Attunement, if I'm going to be honest. but there are other options here that are pretty okay. I think you either go Flame Attunement or you go like Accelerating Flamethrower or something kind of cheesy like that because you want to be within close range. So 4 stacks of Smolder grants haste. I actually like how Accelerating Flamethrower kind of works with this. Because the haste will allow for will like enable a few things. That being said, I think that it's not really something that we need to get. I think the attunement's just generally going to be more consistent than the haste stuff will be. And there's other ways to gain haste that we can kind of talk about too. In terms of what gear we run, I think it's definitely a winged leather shoe angle. And the reason why I think winged leather shoes are really, really good at the fire staff is it's just basically 10% more damage. While hasted, there's ways to get basically permanent haste. Can you explain why you pair fire staff with the rapier? Sure. I mean, rapier is just a really good offhand in terms of just pure utility in terms of like escaping situations, and that's why you pair fire staff with the rapier. Like it allows you to disengage from fights better. It lets you actually like kind of control the fight versus melees a little bit more, and it just lets you pick your fights as well in terms of like the FFA area. Or if we're talking about versus haste, would you consider flint stick? Flint stick is a really, really good option, yeah. I think that the 15% damage from Inferno might be better than flint stick though, because you could also, now you can get a gem on here. Keenly Empowered Vicious is fine, and you can get attunement on here too, which is like, Inferno might be a little bit better now. But Flint Stick is the next best option. Yeah, Flint Stick is an illegal fire staff. Like, it has perks that you can't normally get that has Vicious and it has Alacritus Punishment on there, which is like another 15% damage. Are we getting a third weapon slot, or is this a shield? The third weapon is for shields, but we're not going to use a shield for this build. So I think winged leather shoes is an option. I think we go light. So what is the setup for light with medium? I need to look this up real quick with a calculator. Weapon, or no. Armor calculator. Oh, that's a different thing. I have like old armor calculators saved that show like which gear stats are armor or are optimal. Copy of New World Armor Calc. This is probably it. Oh, no, this is a gear score thing. Sorry guys, I'm looking at the other monitor real quick. Dude, this is I don't have the old calculator. Does anyone know what you do with the medium, what we do with winged leather shoes off the top of their head? I assume it's like light legs and then something else. Light legs, the chest is probably medium. Like, I think it's this. 2 mediums? Okay. Chest light? Is it medium legs? It's medium pants plus 1 limb? Okay. So the problem with this is all this gear has magnify on it, but I don't think it matters too much for fire staff. Also, did I pick gear that this one doesn't have a gem slot? It needs to have a gem slot, so let me do that again. So we need to pick that one because it has a gem slot. So this should be light. Light glove. Okay. So medium pants, everything else light. I don't play light, and I don't have to deal with this stuff super often. So, but this is what you'd have to do in terms of that, and then this would also have to be light. Yeah. Okay. In terms of the tree, I think you definitely want flamethrower. I think you definitely want burnout. On the left here, do you go pillar of fire and then you go for kind of cheese because you have a bunch of smolder on people, or do you go for fireball just because it's consistent? That would be the question. I think pillar of fire makes a little bit more sense. You can't have three mediums. I have two mediums now, but yeah, we couldn't have three mediums. The tree I'm probably gonna mess up a little bit. I always lean towards cheese. It's either fireball's easier to aim. Yeah, fireball did get nerfed a bit. That's the only problem with fireball. Uh, they've made pillar of fire a lot easier to hit recently. Like especially with target lock too. I'm pretty sure it just puts it right under people's feet. I don't think it matters too much which one you go. Uh, I'm gonna go with pillar for now. And take basically everything on the left tree. We can't get to the ultimate, it's the only thing there. Unless we took like both passives. I don't think you really need the runes of Helios though with Fire Staff. I mean, do you? I mean, it's good. It's just it's not like super consistent. Like with a flamethrower build, I mean. Powering Fireball is getting like gutted too. You want the Fortify for sure. Smolder effects last longer. Actually doesn't really matter, but it's nice. Critical hits with Fire Staff abilities. Inflict Smolder is kind of nice, but it's not mandatory. I'm picking like the mandatory perks right now. The gaining haste is really, really good. So this is where I ended up if I just focus off of like really solid passives. This heating up one doesn't matter a lot. Anything else here not really matter a lot. Singe is optional, but it's good. If you have flamethrower though, you don't really need Singe. This is a mobility build. Don't waste your capstone when you have to stand on one spot. Yeah. Critical hits with fire stuff abilities inflict a stack of smolder. Problem is I don't... Can you crit with this Inferno? You can. Yeah, no, you can. And then it has Kingly Power too, so it kind of works together with that. You're already gonna get like one stack from this, but I think that'll make it faster to get more stacks. I think Singe is okay in certain spots because like if I go burn like I'm like following up on a flamethrower and I go burnout and then I go light into pillar of fire, then Singe is like kind of nice there. So this is like roughly what I would go in terms of like the fire staff, but maybe not perfectly it. Rapier, it's just go all the utility stuff and we don't really care about anything else. Stamina, sure. Crit, reduce stuff, sure. Like none of this really matters for Rapier. Like some people go for flourish and finish, but it's like not really needed. Like you don't need to really worry about most of the stuff here. I guess we should probably pick up the ultimate. Like just go full right tree maybe. Wouldn't you rather fireball or meteor since Rapier's utility and escape? Kind of, but I mean meteor's really, really good. It depends on the context, right? Like if we're talking like mid-scale, then like meteor is definitely the play. And it's better than pillar of fire and better than fireball. If we're talking large scale, it's definitely the play. This is more focused towards like small to medium, because I think that's where most of the content will be next patch. And I think pillar of fire is a little bit better there. Tumblers is so good though, isn't it? Tumblers is good, but you don't dodge consistently with Flamethrower, and you have passive haste with this build, right? And then Winged Leather Shoes is just like another way to get the haste to last longer and a damage increase. Tumblers is normally what I would go for, but for Fire Staff, I think Winged Leather Shoes is like the best option you have next patch. There's a few other things that you could go to, like you could go the whatever the code is called that got nerfed. Like that one's not bad. The 20% base damage one, like that one's fine. But I'd rather have access to empowers more consistently. What I'm really interested in is the ring perks, to be honest. Yeah. Earring, definitely Endless Thirst. There's not too much of a debate there. Gorgon, Amulet, and then Gorgon Ring. Wait. Do we take into account the delay, or do we not take into account the delay? If we take into account the delay, then Endless Thirst. If we don't take into account the delay, the Elemental Ring is better. Because there's the Elemental Band, and this is actually really solid for Fire Staff. Whenever you hit a target with an elemental attack, does not trigger on damage over time or attunements, gain 4% in power for 10 seconds. Why Gorgon items? Because they're the only way to get 725. And I'm not sure if it's worth lowering your gear score for alternatives. Could you put another elemental gem in your fire staff and proc the 2 from the ring? Yeah, that's what you can do. That's why the ring is really good. Gorgon, only Gorgons have 725 that I know of. Is there another way to get 725? I swear that was the only way to get it. Oh, I guess you could use the illegal stuff too. Is there any illegal gear that's worth getting? It all has Magnify as well. I think it's like the 710 stuff that's like has the really broken perks. Sandworm purses. Yes, the sandworm ones is what I'm thinking of. See if any of these are worth using or not. Oh, they don't have the armor ones on here. Where's my 710 armor? I guess I could just do acquisition sandworm. Is that even a thing? They don't have sandworm listed as a raid. It's up top. Isn't it 710 now? Like, this is 710 stuff. But there should be armor too. Acquisition Devour. Oh, yeah, you're right. There we go. Okay, that works. How Enchanted Word Elemental Aversion. Oh, that's pretty solid, but we can't run that because of our boots. Yeah, I mean, we have to look for light gear too, basically. Like, we would run one medium piece, but that's it. Savior we can't use. None of this is that insane for light. Is there any medium stuff that was okay? None of this looks that good. We already have Keen built in, right? Or do we not have Keen built in? Oh, we can't run Keen because it's a medium chest and we need something that's not a chest. So we can't even like utilize any of this gear with the legal perks. The light chest is Keen. The medium chest is Keen. The light chest also has Keen, yeah. Has Shirking Energy. Did I just see shirking energy on a chest? Yeah. We probably run the silken cocoon thing. Does this exist here? Yeah, there we go. So that's the only change I'd probably make to that. Oh man, back when we could have two tricking energies back in the in the back. I mean, you can. I don't know if it's worth going for it, but yeah, you can. I'm just gonna do this without the delayed artifact for now and just assume that doesn't exist because it's gonna get delayed and just use Endless Thirst for now. But there is an artifact that on the ring that is arguably better than like running Endless Thirst, and I'd probably run it over that instead. I'm gonna keep the gems really simple and just do 10-10 for now. Like a 10-10 even split. But the gemming generally is situational. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into gemming, but it's very meta dependent, and 10-10's like pretty much always fine to run. So you just run opals, you run onyx, or you can do malachite and diamonds, I think. Also, I just forgot, these gems should be the rune glass variants. And that changes stuff a little bit. I think I'd rather be a little bit more towards warded towards ranged. So this should be like rune glass, and then it should be like probably the emerald one. Why this boots? Because it has a damage bonus and it helps us with haste. The damage bonus is the main thing. It's just a free 10% damage if you're hasted, which you'll have pretty consistent haste. Do you go thrust? I don't want to worry about like doing the weird gem stuff. I just want to do like 10-10 for now. Because we could go into the weird gem stuff, but it's just gonna get weird. Uh Arcane, Void, Lightning, where's fire? There we go. Ignited. So we want ignited physical ward for all these. That will increase our base damage. Or is it in power for these? I honestly forget if these are in base damage or in power. But for fire staff in particular, it's very common to use the rune glass, but for a lot of weapons, it's not common to use it. What do you put on the Inferno perk? I put a 2-min on it. I think you can go into the utility perk or you can go a 2-min. Those are your, like your two options. I don't have the option to choose a rune glass here for some reason. But I think you can throw a gem slot on there now. So, and these would be opal. The reason why you want opal is because people do like weird gemming things with their weapons and make their gems do other sources of damage. So it's usually best just to go opal and just be generalist there. You can ward towards specific things, but it's like always risky. Are we only getting con from the amulet plus ring? And food probably. It's probably something really weird like that. No, we have room for stuff. So consumables. Uh, there's not new food, right? You want honing. I don't think anything else here really matters. Oh no, you can put that under buffs. Um, Because these would be passive. They wouldn't actually be something that we use mid-fight. And we want... Oh, I lost my rabbit. Desert Sunrise, because Desert Sunrise will reduce dot durations. Is it 1S? Yeah, it's 1S. And that's basically it there. In terms of consumes, we want to make sure we have bags too. Which I guess I can't put on here, but you want to make sure you have bags that have lasting consumption on there because it'll increase the duration of flame attunement potions. Or fire attunement. Or fire infused or something like that. Like these pots. Definitely want health pots. Do we want regen or do we want infused or the stam ones? Energizing hearty meal. Yeah, you're right. You want energizing hearty meal. For the mana. By the way, on live critical precision, SNS haste crit with speedy boots goes from 5 seconds to 10 seconds somehow. Nice. Let me see your amulet. I don't have anything on the amulet yet. I'm gonna go over the perks like probably last here. I think you want regen and you don't want regeneration serum for this build. But it's really close. Because I think you want the ability to gain mana. And regen gives you that ability. And what goes here, like mana potion? Because we don't have cleanse. Am I missing anything stupid here? I don't think I am. It's been a bit since I've done fire staff buffs. Okay. So now we kind of get into the fun part. We got to start picking perks. Okay, let's do Heart Rune real quick too. Heart Rune, I think it's pretty much just always stone form, right? It's either stone form or vines. Cannon? I mean, I guess you could, but it's like a little riskier. Cannon with a flamethrower build? Deado for burnout Deados? Okay, we'll go Deado for the meme, but like, I don't think you need to do that. Brutal Vines? I think Vines is the best one. No, that's the thing. I think Vines is better than Deado now. Stone is OP. The only problem with Stone is it doesn't work with Purifying Heart on live, and I don't know if it's gonna work with Purifying Heart on the beta. Or not in the beta, when the game actually comes out. Like, I would say Stone, except, like, I don't know if it's actually gonna work. I think we start with Deado, though. Let's just start with Deado, and we'll just play off Burnout Deado, and then we're gonna go for Flamethrower stuff, and we're gonna finish with Pillar of Fire. That's gonna be the plan. So... Plus 20% explosion damage. Yeah, this is the right one. And we want to scale that one to whatever max level that we can. Okay, on Ring, there's 2 perks that are mandatory. It's Hardy. And what do you call it? Purifying Heart. Well, Purifying isn't mandatory actually with this build, but it's usually mandatory. We already have Keen, so we want fire damage. Fire damage mandatory? Basically, yeah. I think Purifying Heart isn't necessarily mandatory for this build. PvP only hitting 2 players with a single, it's not melee attacks. I'm trying to see if there's any new perks here that are like really good, but I don't think there's any. It probably is still Purifying Heart then. We either go Purifying Heart or Invigorated Punishment. Abilities deal 1% bonus damage per buff on a player, max 10 buffs. So in theory, this is really good with the fire staff build that we have because you can just burn people and then that will inflict stuff. Or we can go burning. base duration of burns you apply lasts 25% longer, which is fine to go to. Let's go. Let's play it safe with the refresh, I think. We just go fire damage, hardy, refreshing. Oh, I forgot about refreshing. Yeah, you definitely go refreshing. I forgot that refreshing was a thing for some reason. Burning easy. No, you definitely go refreshing. Because it helps you with your rapier stuff, and then it also... Well, we could see where we end up. I think we can not pick this perk for now. Like, we can clear it for now. Or, like... We can go back to that one to see if we have room for if we have to put refreshing on ring or not. If we don't have to put refreshing on ring, it can be a little bit more creative. It seems like health is mandatory right now still. You probably want protection from thrust, because thrust is usually the bane of your existence if you're a fire staff. And then your last slot here is a little bit more flexible. What would you go here? Would you go, like, my natural, like, the tank brain in me is like, oh, just go divine, but I don't think you really need to do that. It's also weird that they got rid of stam recovery as an option. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, you're thinking of stam, but stam isn't on here. Like, it's actually not in the drop table for 725. They also nerfed stam recovery too, by the way, but stam isn't, like, on here anymore. Oh, no, it is. Wait, what? It was on here? Is it? When you're hit below 50% health, gain 60 stamina, 45-second cooldown. Yeah, they nerfed stam recovery. So 60 stamina on a 45-second cooldown, good enough. Probably not. So, like, your maximum stand's 110, right? So this gives you half your stam bar, and they increase the cooldown by 15 seconds as well. Like, it's okay. It's just, like, I don't think it's really mandatory. Like, stam recovery hasn't been mandatory in war for a while, but it's because people have been running Onk. And if you're not running Onk, you have a slot opened. I think I'm gonna lock in Divine early, but Empowered also makes sense. Refresh and Recover any good? Refresh and Recovery is cool, it's just like it doesn't feel practical. What is better? Nothing. Divine's a multiplicative health thing. Like, Divine, I think, is better, but they're both, like, pretty close. Divine plus Endless. That's what I'm saying. I have Endless, cousin. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Refresh and Recovery could save you in a tight spot. I mean, I'd rather go Purifying than Refresh and Recovery, to be honest. There's a few things that have had Refreshing. Wait, dude, I have the wrong amulet on for this. We're debating over this and we're not even going the right idea here. My bad. I forgot about an amulet that exists. We should be going Phoenix. Yeah, we definitely should be going Phoenix. For a fire staff build, like in small scale, like there's no reason not to go Phoenix. That's my bad. We don't even have to worry about the other stuff. And your last perk slot here is Hardy. Or is this a gem slot? It's Hardy. Why could I not pick Hardy? Does it have Hardy on it? No. Why can't I pick Hardy? Wait, what? You can't get Hardy on Phoenix? Oh, Hardy's for rings, my guy? Okay, I'm tired. Yeah, that makes more sense. I just spent way too long on that. So Phoenix has like 2 temp abilities that are really nice, but you put thrust protection on here. Yeah, okay, now I'm back in my element, or back in the right game. Jesus Christ. This already has the gem on it, so we're kind of fine there. No, we're not. What is happening to my thing here? This should be purify, because it's supposed to be. And then this should be the opal. Wait, health? Wait, no, yeah, you're right. It should be health. Guys, it's too late. It's past my bedtime. This is why I didn't want to do another tier list. We're going too late. Starting to lose it. No, it should be health. It's close though. If you should take the protection, but I think health's a little bit better. With the yeah, I think health's a little bit better. Her fire staff. You gotta do another tier list tonight? Oh hell no. This isn't a replace of a tier list. You definitely want regen. Definitely want purifying heart. Probably healthy toast. Now you used to always go for it used to be what's the perk called? Refreshing toast used to be a perk that people went for, but refreshing toast has anti-synergy with no, we don't have that earring anymore. We can actually no, refreshing toast is fine. I think you put 2 to 3 emerald now. Yeah, I didn't really want to think about like how it worked with the rune glass stuff, but if you don't have the ward, then yeah, we probably go back to emerald. So this is opal. Or do we do emeralds and or do we do opals in the other thing and do we do emeralds in here? I think we can flip it if we do this. So then if we do that and then we do 2 physicals here, then we end up with 10 resist, which is something, and 5 resist to melee, which is something. The problem is we're going to be in melee range, and then we need to switch this to ignited opal. I could do 4%. This is the problem. It gets like really confusing really fast. Like I could do 2 emeralds here, and then I can do the rest as physical, and then I would have 6% physical, and then 7.5% elemental. Or I can do like heavy into the thrust side, which I think is better. I think it's better to go heavy into thrust, and then be a little bit lighter on the what do you call it side on the elemental side. Because elemental damage isn't usually what kills you with fire staff, it's usually thrust damage effects. So this would be what if I were to switch these and I'd have 10% on this, and then I would do 5 and dude, I don't like messing with all this. Gems just get so gross. I'm just gonna leave the gems alone for now because it gets really weird with all the fire staffs. Because it's like these are worth 2% for reference, so it's just and you don't want to like have too little of a resist, but you're always gonna have like less of a resist. Like gems are just like situational things, and it's just like it's gross depending on your matchup. You want to have certain gems, but like generally 10-10 is fine. Like with the setup we're doing before, we're going 10-7.5 is like also like kind of fine. Like it's not ideal, but like it's not wrong. So then what would we want on our armor? You definitely want health on things if we can get it. Not on everything. I think at least on 3 of the pieces we want health. The other ones are a little bit more questionable, but are probably still going health, like refreshing, freedom. Yeah, we probably still want health on here. Do we want health on this? Probably. The only other argument to go would be going for fire damage here. Or fire harnessing. Actually, that's probably better. May I ask what are generally better? Use bruiser perks and medium heavy. Don't need in depth. Uh, if there's a lot of detonates, elemental aversion. If there's not a lot of detonates, shirking fortification. Health is considered to be okay, but I'd argue you shouldn't use it. So I'd say a shirking fortification or elemental aversion, conditioning to slash conditioning for the most part, maybe 2/2 thrust. And then your last slot's a little bit flexible, and a lot of bruisers will take freedom. Strike amulet is solid, Micro. Yeah, for bruiser. For fire stuff, I think Phoenix might be a little bit better, no? Because then you can just kind of commit. Yeah, just for bruiser. Yeah. Some armor from 1 year ago still holds up. Yeah, no, bruiser has not changed much. People went back and forth on shirking for elemental aversion, and then we ended up in a spot where like it didn't really matter because they like balanced them correctly. So let's do fire harnessing. And then there's a new perk that we want to make sure we lock in that gives us haste. I think it's on legs. Yeah, hasted vigor. Potency of incoming damage over time effects is reduced by 7% per armored piece with this perk, and taking a hit while inflicted with a dot will grant 10% haste for 5 seconds. We only care about the haste. We don't care about anything else from this. We just care about the haste. Because if you have a dot on you, most people will run Rune Glass, you'll have a dot on you. And you get hit once, then you'll just gain 10% haste. And then because you gain that 10% haste, your wing leather shoes is going to be constantly proccing, right? So then you're constantly going to be doing the 10% base damage. Like that's the kind of the basis of why I think wing leather shoes is going to be really, really good next patch. How much refreshing you have? None yet. That's going to be all the last slots, unless we want to do conditioning. Do I ever put in skill perks? That'd be the other question too. Yo, DMC, what's going on? Welcome, guys. We are putting together a fire staff rapier build for next patch. So the only weapon perks that are good are the fire staff ones, right? And refreshing pillar is probably the only one that's like mandatory. It's only 20%. It's not that good. How often can you go for the worm gear? I think it's only once per week per worm, and it's once per week for the other raid too, but I'm like less sure about the worm. The worm stuff is like kind of weird. Is it worth putting refreshing pillar of fire if it's only 10% when I could take refreshing? I guess it stacks twice, so it's like 20%, so it's probably worth doing, but it's like it feels kind of mid. And then like what about a flamethrower, like accelerating flamethrower? Is that worth picking up? It's still a haste, so like you probably want to pick this up. But then I'm like in a spot where it's like I feel like I'm not tanky. Like this is like a go in, hit pretty hard, and leave build. Uh which is fine. It just feels weird. Who needs to tank when you burn them to death? They will be hitting you while you're burning them to death, but that's where Phoenix comes in, and it probably helps you a lot. Worm stuff is mid at best, but you can't upgrade the worm gear to 725 though. I mean, the main thing with the worm gear is there's like some stuff that's like broken. Like this chest piece, I can get keen on my chest piece. So then I don't need keen like anywhere else. Or like refreshing, too refreshing. I can't put only two. Oh my god. I mean, your options are cutting fire harnessing, which I think it doesn't make sense to like worry too much about refreshing because you're a flamethrower build and that's your main identity. Like you can cut fire harnessing for refreshing, but that'd be your option. Like pillar of fire, I think you generally want this. Do you ever go? Maybe we just like drop the attunement here and we go like pillar of fire. I don't play flame. Like I don't think we need to go flame. I think we have enough forms of haste. Like this is another 20% haste, but then we have haste built into a few other things. Fire stuff with aimbot the highest skill ceiling. Yeah, 6 seconds on stagger is a big deal. Or 6 second cooldown on stagger is a big deal. It will be if they actually adjust it that way. I wasn't aware that they put a cooldown on there. Anyone know if you could region transfer to change faction? Not anymore, Baboon. Well, Baboon, even if you can do it, if you region transfer, your next transfer cooldown's a month. So they changed it to be a month long now. So if you region transfer, you're not going to be playing for a bit. Like the transfers are just crazy long. Yeah. Uh, yeah. I don't know. Do you need to run accelerated flamethrower? Like, is that better than pillar of fire? Like, I feel like you need pillar of fire. The accelerated flamethrower. Like, I think we put refreshing here. What if we just do fours? Like, what if we just do? Where's my refreshing? Why is refreshing not showing up? There it is. Was Thorny Reflection ever good? Taking a critical hit will reflect nature damage back to the target. This is good if you run the ring, but if we don't run the ring, we don't need to run that. Um, so refreshing there. We want this for sure. So then we'd have to drop a fire harnessing if we want another refreshing. Which I think we can drop one. Like if we wanted to do max refreshing, but it's like, eh. Like I feel like the fire harnessing's probably better though, is the problem. Like I think I'd rather max out the fire harnessing and just run 3 refreshing. And then if you wanted to run like one of the other weapon perks, then you could swap it for attunement on here. What other builds did he make in here? I made old ones, but not new ones. The only weird thing about this build is you want the 25 gear score rapier, and in terms of your stat split, definitely at least 200 con. Probably just, honestly, just 200 con and then full int. Like 400 port int, 200 con. Like that seems fine to me. Like I don't think you really care about the crit chance from here. Like nothing else here really matters. Okay, the CDR from the focus is kind of nice, I'm not gonna lie, but that's the only one that like is debatable. Because you could pick up another 5% ability cooldown. What damage do I drop if I drop this by 25? So now I'm at 14. So I'd be at 14. 7-3. 25 focus, 374. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I just wanted to confirm that I'm not losing too much damage here. And if I were to change this, then yeah, you don't lose much damage. So yeah, it's worth doing. I lost like 20 damage for reference. Like it's not much, and then I can gain an extra 5%, which makes up for the fact that I'm dropping a refreshing. So this kind of makes sense. But that's like a mock build. I don't know if this is BIS, but it's definitely a good build. Is there anything here that would be better? I don't think you want Healing Heart with that, Nate. 28 damage, 18k health is good. Yeah, like I think you're fine. Like it's squishy, and you have to gem pretty well, but like it works. Like you have some health, so I don't think you'll get one shot. And even if you do get one shot, you have Phoenix, right? So like you have a second chance there. For people that don't know what Phoenix does, it basically gives you an extra life, but you need to make sure you kill the person that you're trying to kill so that you don't die. So it's like kind of an ultimate like trade out thing. Fire staff, the other way that you build this too is you could build it towards like heavy, and you could be like just really annoying and cheesy with that. That'd be the other way to do this, and that is probably easier to play and has honestly a similar damage output. But I don't know how that would be. New World October planning? Kinda, yeah. We're going through it. There's a low gear score rapier with refreshing as well. That is true, but I think it's a little bit higher, right? Like if I go to weapons, go to rapier, perks refreshing, and then sort the other way. Yeah, it's 350. That's too high. Your goal is to lower your gear score. So what's my average gear score here? So my average gear score is 610. So I'm going to be doing like a decent amount more damage with 610 than I would if I were to up that rapier and probably be at like 650. Like I think the damage increase makes up for it. So if I look at pillar, like my pillar's hitting for 5-6k. If I look at the flamethrower's ticking for 1.5k. So that's pretty good. Can't you craft a green one? You can, but you could also just go to the starting island and get a level 75 one. Mika, are you playing if Aimlock makes it to live, or do you need your lawyer for that question? If Aimlock makes it to live, I might just play tank, because tank will still be fun. Like the only build I'm like kind of interested in playing in live right now is VG Flail, and I think VG Flail will be pretty good for a large scale because of the new flail and how that works. Like VG Flail is also a very, very fun build to play. I think flamethrower is a meme next patch. It probably won't be, to be honest. Like I would kind of hope it would be, but I don't think it will. Also, is accelerating flamethrower? I feel like accelerating flamethrower is just better than attunement. Or like we do pillar here, we do accelerating. I feel like that's better. Like I'm not gonna lie. Because the accelerating part that we care about is like the haste. Like I don't think like attunement is gonna hit that hard. Like it's gonna hit for what? Like why not just keen speed? Because you have keenly empowered. Locked in. Accelerating flamethrower and armor isn't much value to put it on weapon. Yeah, like you definitely want it on armor. The entire purpose is the haste, right? And the haste isn't reduced if you put it on armor. The burn thing doesn't really matter. So I flipped that, but that is what I would do for a mock fire staff build. Let me see the rapier. You need to put 725 for rapier for stats. That's the gimmick. In New World, it's better. If you have a utility offhand, it's better to use a low gear score offhand because it will boost the damage of your main hand and it will reduce the damage that's incoming. Surely they fixed the gear score thing for New World to turn them. They think they already fixed the gear score thing, and we tested it 3 days ago, or maybe not 3 days ago, like 5 days ago, and it's still to the point where I was taking like 10% less damage and dealing like 10% more damage with a super low gear score like offhand. Like, do you want to do 10% more damage is like the question. Like as a multiplicative factor, which will scale up by everything. And it's like, yeah, it's still worth it. It was a moderate amount of benefit, but still, yeah. I mean, Crush 2, like, I know we lost attributes when we did it, but you lose the attributes, you're dealing more damage even with the lost attributes, and then you're taking less damage too, right? Like, the taking less damage part's a really big deal. So, like, why not? Like, it just seemed beneficial. taking less damage is the part is bigger now, in my opinion. Do you still do damage on your rapier? Oh no, you don't do any damage on your rapier. Your rapier is going to do no damage at all. Nothing. But if you're using Fire Staff Rapier, you should never be using your rapier for damage. Now, for something like Bow actually uses the rapier quite a bit for damage, so I don't think it makes as much sense for Bow, but for Fire Staff Rapier, it can make sense. If I was to do Hatchet with Deep Freeze 5 int, would I deal less if I was just lower gear score Ice Gauntlet? Well, with Deep Freeze, it has to be 700 gear score. The question is does the base damage from the Deep Freeze make up for the low gear score on the Ice Gauntlet? And I want to say the answer is no. Because Deep Freeze is a 15% base damage, right? And it also gives you 38 stats. We only tested the stats, and it was like relatively close damage-wise. Now, if you wanted to also consider the fact that you'd be taking less damage with a lower gear score, it might be worth it. But if you don't, if you just like look at it from a damage perspective, you'd get more damage out of Deep Freeze. That being said, like Deep Freeze with Hatchet's like kind of sus. Like I'd rather go Hatchet with SNS. What perks would you use on Rapier? If you're using a 75 gear score Rapier, there's no perks you can put on it. If you're using any other Rapier, the only perks that like really do anything are like attunement, like keen speed, because you want utility from it, like maybe keen so that keen speed procs more, so you could use it to like move faster. Like that's all I would do. My entire existence is a bit sus. My main build was 5-con Hatchet IG VG. Or 5-con Hatchet with IG or VG. That is sus. That is so sus. What? Oh god. You'd get more damage out of Deep Freeze with that. Or just like if you really care about damage, just go Artifact VG now, and then that would do more damage. I love weird builds, but that is cursed. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I there's a lot of weird builds, but that's a really, really cursed weird build. Plus New World, Empyrean first week, plus New World. Yeah. Okay, guys, I think I'm gonna... unless there's questions people have, I'm probably gonna call it within the next, like, 5 minutes to watch the rest of the Padres game. Flamethrower perk is better on gear. Yeah. We already talked about that. Cool. I caught up on the YouTube chat. I'm not forgetting about you guys, I swear. A lot of people like to watch the YouTube VOD too, which is like why I like to put it up there. Like, and then you don't have to worry about stuff too. Also, I guess it's confirmed we're getting 4 character slot. Yeah, we are. If you guys are in the Discord, you saw that today. Where is it? Right here. There's an article that came out, and with Eternum getting released, they're going to increase the maximum care slots to 4. The other thing that's noteworthy that came out with news that we kind of messed up on yesterday is Kolinsky. We gave him a lot of shit yesterday because we thought he linked a really boring interview. Turns out in that interview, they also said that they're not going to put out a roadmap until after the patch comes out because they, quote, want to see what the console players like to do or something akin to that. Like, I'm paraphrasing there. But they're literally just waiting to see, like, what people want, I guess, and then they're going to make content, which to me means that they don't have plans for content for the next 3 to 6 months. So that's also a little weird. Alacritus Punishment's still a good perk. Yeah, Alacritus Punishment's really good because they basically added perma haste to every ability in the game. So if you look at the pants we have here, we have Hasted Vigor on them. Potency of incoming damage over time effects reduce by 7% per armor perk with this perk, and taking a hit while inflicting a dot will grant 10% haste for 5 seconds. So everyone's going to have 10% haste. Alacritus Punishment is very, very good next patch. And the only reason why we didn't go for Alacritus Punishment with this build is because we think Inferno's inner power is the 15% damage change that they put on there is like really, really strong. And then you could also put a gem slot on here, although it seems like it's bugged on this UI. So like Inferno has 6 perks effectively built into it, or 5 perks effectively built into it, versus a normal fire staff has like 4, and that just makes it like probably better. But yeah, on the VOD, there's some tier list. I don't know if I'll be editing them down in time for tomorrow, but they'll at least be up. Tomorrow, Thursday. Yeah, the tier list stuff will at least be up Friday. Uh, Tomorrow I'm gonna try to do artifact-based tier list, but it's gonna be a mission. There's 45 artifacts, no, 55 artifacts, so it's gonna take a while. But we'll attempt to do that tomorrow now. Now making an anti-haste build? Yeah, I mean, anti-haste stuff will be good next patch too. Is anyone playing the game that is worth hosting? There's not a lot of people playing. Andev's playing, Dusty's playing. Sleep's playing too. I haven't hosted Dusty in a while. Oh, Llama streams now? Okay, I've got to host Llama. I've never hosted Llama before, and Llama's like Abyss OPR healer. I love playing with Llama. She's really good at the game and very fun to play with too. Andev's already big enough. Dude, Dusty's still going crazy. Yeah, I mean, Dusty, yeah. All right, I'll see you guys on the YouTube side and on the Twitch side as well. Peace.